You're not needed here. From now on, you can live with the rats in the storage shed. Leave Henry to us." The moment I heard those words, I felt every ounce of strength drain from my body. It was clear they had hidden my son, Henry, somewhere. Fear and despair consumed me. I knew I had to escape and get him back, no matter what it took. But trapped as I was, even that seemed impossible. About a week had passed since this nightmarish life began. One day, I noticed something unusual about the container my mother-in-law, Jane, threw at me. Hurriedly, I opened it and was shocked to find a bundle of cash inside. It must have been around $30K at a glance. Among the money was a small slip of paper. "Meet at the station gate at 12 tonight." The moment I read those words, my heart pounded loudly in my chest. It was clear this was Jane's doing, but I couldn't tell if it was my salvation or another trap. Still, I couldn't remain imprisoned forever. Even if it was a trap, I couldn't let this opportunity slip away. My name is Sarah. I'm 29 years old. In my nearly 30 years of life, I've faced what feels like an endless series of trials. The first major upheaval came in the winter when I was 12 years old. That was the day I lost both of my beloved parents in a sudden car accident. My carefree childhood ended abruptly, and I was forced to move between distant relatives' homes. Even as a child, I could sense I was being treated as a burden. Though my relatives spoke kindly to me, there was always an unbridgeable distance lurking beneath their words. In the homes where I stayed, I was often made to help with chores, and there were times I couldn't even attend school properly. Time with friends grew scarce, and I increasingly felt the weight of loneliness. Middle school became my only solace. One person in particular, my classmate Jim, became my emotional anchor. Jim was always cheerful, subtly offering his hand whenever I needed it. He made me feel a warmth I couldn't find at home, and his presence quietly saved me. But as we moved on to high school, our paths diverged. While Jim enrolled in one of the best schools in the city, I remained with distant relatives, working part-time to cover my living expenses. I dedicated myself to studying harder than anyone at school. Yet college was out of reach. My part-time income simply couldn't cover tuition costs. With that frustration buried deep inside, I graduated and began working as a temp. Years passed, and then one day, fate intervened. At a local reunion, I saw Jim again. He greeted me with the same warm smile as always. In that instant, the loneliness of my past seemed to fade away. This reunion reignited something in my life. We quickly grew close again, and soon started dating. At 25, we got married. I devoted myself to supporting our home as a full-time homemaker. Marrying Jim brought me a sense of happiness I had never truly known before. But little did I know, this decision would lead to new challenges in my life. Shortly after our marriage, we began living with his family. Jim had always mentioned his intention to eventually take over the family home. However, once that life began, it turned out to be much more suffocating than I had imagined. The reason was the presence of my father-in-law, Mike. Sarah, this is why young women today are so problematic. If you can't fulfill your role in the household properly, then what's the point? He spoke to me in this tone almost every day. He was the kind of person who prided himself on his position as an executive at a major corporation and considered his opinions to be absolute. Every morning at breakfast, he would read the newspaper and ask, "What's in the news today?" But it was never to enjoy a conversation. He would only use my response as an excuse to criticize and dismiss my opinions. Being a housewife must be easy. You should at least handle the household chores perfectly for your husband, who's working hard outside. The words that came out of his mouth were always like this. At first, I responded with a smile, but gradually, I found myself unable to say anything at all. My mother-in-law, Jane, who had been a homemaker for many years, was also submissive to his views. Mike is right, Sarah. It's your duty to take care of the home. Hearing Jane say those words, I couldn't help but sigh internally. I had secretly hoped that Jane would side with me, so I felt betrayed. In the midst of all this, only my husband, Jim, noticed my struggles. Dad, enough already. Sarah's doing her best. She's adjusting to a new life, so why can't you cut her some slack? Whenever he said this, it gave me a small sense of relief. But Mike, with his outdated way of thinking, never took his words seriously. What nonsense are you spouting? If a man is too soft on a woman, the household will fall apart. Jim, you need to be stricter and teach her better. This repeated exchange gradually wore me down. As a corporate executive, Mike spent more time at home than the average employee. So after Jim left for work, I had to bear the brunt of my in-laws' words and pressure alone. Even if breakfast was just a few minutes late, he would look displeased. Sarah, if you can't manage time properly, then you're just not up to par. If this were a company, you'd be fired immediately. This isn't a company. Besides, I wasn't feeling well this morning. When I inadvertently talked back, Mike's expression grew even harsher. Are you arguing with the head of the household? Do you think a family can function with that kind of attitude? Know your place. The moment he raised his voice, I felt like I couldn't breathe. Even though I knew I just had to endure until Jim came home, the burden in my chest grew heavier with each passing day. Are you okay, Sarah? Are you managing to adjust to living here? At night, Jim would gently ask me this. I nodded slightly, unable to find the words to answer. Our life together had just begun. Thinking about what lay ahead filled me with dread. About a year after we got married, our son, Henry, was born. Of course, the birth of our child was an unparalleled joy. But after Henry was born, Mike's behavior became even more unbearable for me. The reason was that Mike saw his grandson, Henry, as nothing more than his successor. His relentless expectations not only interfered with my parenting, but also made me feel as though my very existence was being dismissed. Sarah, if you keep treating Henry like a child, he'll never learn to be independent. Boys need to be raised with discipline. How many times do I have to say this? His voice was always loud and commanding. Every time Mike called my name, I couldn't help but feel myself shrink inside. When Henry turned 3, he began taking him out frequently. Without asking for permission from me or Jim, he would suddenly declare, I'm going to educate Henry, and take him somewhere without explaining. Mike, could you at least let me know? Henry is only 3 years old. Where are you even taking him? When I protested, Mike would throw me a cold stare. I don't need to report to you about everything, Sarah. You're always coddling him. I'm making him a man. Just stay out of it and watch. By the time Mike brought Henry home, he was often covered in dirt. Sometimes, he would come back with new bad words he'd learned or wearing unfamiliar branded clothes. One day, despite Henry having a slight cold, Mike insisted on taking him out. When they returned, his condition had worsened. Mike, I told you Henry was sick. Why would you push him like that? If you say he's the future of this family, then treat him with care. In response to my furious protest, Mike replied coldly with disdain. Getting sick over something like this? What a pathetic air. Sarah, maybe it's your poor upbringing that's the problem. His words left me speechless. As Henry coughed painfully beside us, he just kept muttering about how he lacked toughness. When Jim got home and saw what was happening, he immediately confronted Mike with intensity. "Dad, that's enough. Henry is only 3 years old. Stop taking him out like this without telling Sarah. Something serious could happen." "Are you talking back to me, Jim? Since when did you get so high and mighty? If anyone here lacks a sense of responsibility as a father, it's you." Henry clung to me with a frightened look as he watched their argument. Seeing his expression, I quickly stepped between Jim and Mike. "Please stop. Henry is watching. Both of you. Let's end this now." The situation settled for the moment, but his behavior didn't change. While Jim's words had been a comfort, I was determined never to let Henry witness such a scene again. From then on, I tried to avoid confronting Mike as much as possible. If enduring this would keep the peace in our household, I thought it was worth it, but that peace kept chipping away at something vital inside me. Even though I wanted to protect Henry, thinking about how long this could go on filled me with despair. Then, in the 4th winter of our marriage, tragedy struck our family. Jim passed away in a car accident. From the moment I received the news, it felt as if time had stopped for me. I couldn't believe it, that Jim was no longer in this world. "This must be a joke, right, Jim? There's no way this could be true." As I stood there in shock, Mike's heartless voice pierced through the silence. "We don't have time for tears. We need to start preparing the funeral immediately. It has to be presentable." I had no energy to argue with those words, so I moved like a puppet, obeying Mike and Jane's commands. Before I could even process what was happening, Jim's funeral was over in a flash. The warmth of little Henry was the only thing keeping me tethered to reality. There was a deep hole in my heart, and time passed by without me feeling anything at all. A few days after Jim's funeral, when I woke up in the morning, I noticed something was wrong. Henry was nowhere to be found. Mike had ordered that Henry and I sleep in separate rooms. It had become my routine to go to Henry's room first thing in the morning, but he wasn't there today. "Henry, where are you?" I searched every corner of the house, but he was nowhere to be found. Overcome with anxiety, I ran to Mike. "Mike, Henry's not in his room. Where did you take him?" Mike sat arrogantly in his chair, pulling an exaggerated scowl. "I don't know. Stop accusing me for no reason." Next, I went to the kitchen to ask Jane, but she only looked at me with a puzzled expression. "I don't know. Maybe he's just hiding somewhere." I couldn't believe her words. Half mad with worry, I dashed outside and searched the neighborhood frantically. The park, the riverside, the places Henry loved. I scoured every spot I could think of, but there was no sign of Henry anywhere. Hoping against hope, I returned home again, but Henry still wasn't there. "I have to call the police." As I shakily reached for my smartphone, Mike grabbed my arm. "What do you think you're doing? You don't do anything without my permission." "What are you talking about? Henry, a 3-year-old child, is missing. He could have been in an accident or something worse. We can't just sit around." But Mike glared at me coldly, and together with Jane, snatched my phone away. "Mike, give it back. Please, we need to call the police right away." "You have no rights, Sarah. By the way, your role here is over." Before I could grasp the meaning of his words, Mike's powerful hand pinned me down, and Jane efficiently shoved me into the storage room. The sound of the door slamming shut echoed, and I was locked in the dim space. "What are you doing? Let me out of here." I pounded on the door and screamed, but the storage room was sturdy, and there was nothing I could do. Instead, Mike's icy voice pierced through from the other side of the door without mercy. You're not needed anymore. From now on, live with the rats in the storage room. Leave Henry to us." The moment I heard those words, I felt my strength drain away. It was clear they had hidden Henry somewhere. Fear and despair consumed me. I had to escape and get Henry back, no matter what. But locked in this space, I was completely powerless. How long had I been confined here? The small room contained only a jug of water and a makeshift toilet, and I had no way of knowing what was happening outside. The only thing faintly marking the passage of time was an old clock hanging on the wall. Every day, Jane would bring meals in a plastic container, but they were more like scraps than proper food. "This is enough for you, isn't it? You're in no position to demand luxuries." Jane's cold voice no longer elicited a response from me. There was no point in pressing for answers. Jane had no intention of listening to anything I said from the start. The only thing lingering in my mind was the gnawing worry about Henry's well-being. I had no way to verify if he was safe, and in this situation, all I could do was endure. About a week had passed since this ordeal began. One day, I noticed something unusual about the container Jane tossed in. Hurriedly checking inside, I was stunned to find a bundle of cash. It looked to be roughly $30K at a glance. Amidst the bills was a small piece of paper, 12 Antonite. Meet at the entrance of the nearest train station. The moment I read the terse note, my heart pounded heavily. It was clearly Jane's doing, but I couldn't tell if this was a rescue or another trap. Still, I couldn't stay confined forever. Even if it was a trap, I couldn't afford to miss this chance. Then midnight came. When the wall clock struck the hour, I cautiously pushed open the storage room door. It wasn't locked. Looking around, there was no sign of anyone. As I stepped outside, a cold night breeze brushed against my skin. Can I really step outside? The doubts lingered, but clutching the container tightly, I hurried out of the house. The night was eerily quiet, with only the sound of my footsteps echoing in the stillness. I rushed through the darkness, heading toward the nearest station. Finally arriving, I spotted Jane standing at the gate. The sight of her from a distance made me stop in my tracks. She was dressed more plainly than usual, her expression blank, yet there was a faint hint of unease in her demeanor. "You're here." Fixing her gaze on me, Jane passed through the gate with a pre-bought ticket and pulled me into the last train car. "Jane, Before I could ask, she shoved a paper bag into my hands. "Go to the address written on the note. Wait there until I come to get you. Understand, Sarah?" "Jane, what's going on? Where is Henry? What is—" interrupting my barrage of questions, Jane whispered, "Don't ask anything right now. If you want to protect Henry, follow my instructions." Her words made me gasp. I couldn't discern her true intentions, but Jane's tone didn't seem deceitful. Just then, the train doors closed, and the car began to move. Jane's figure standing on the platform grew smaller and smaller. Left alone in the car, I decided to check the paper bag. Inside were simple clothes and a single piece of paper. The paper had only an address written on it, nothing else. "Henry, please be safe." My murmured words melted into the silence of the car. Fear and hope surged through me in turns. The reflection of my face in the window was streaked with tears. I couldn't understand what Jane was thinking, nor did I have any clue what would happen next. Still, I felt certain that something had begun to shift. With no room to calm my nerves, I simply watched the scenery outside the window rush past. The address Jane had written led to a small rental apartment on the outskirts of town. When I finally arrived, the building, though old, appeared well maintained. Gripping the key from the paper bag tightly, I unlocked the designated door, finding the inside surprisingly neat and orderly. It was a small room meant for a single person, but it had all the necessary furniture and appliances. When I opened the fridge, it was stocked with enough food to last for days. Unlike Jane's usual cold and indifferent attitude, this room had everything prepared for me to stay for a few days. On the table in the middle of the room, there was an envelope. The envelope simply read to Sarah. With trembling hands, I opened it and found a very long letter inside. I immediately recognized it as a letter from Jane, but as I read it, I felt a deep sense of pain over and over again. The content of the letter was shocking beyond belief. These are the truths I've kept to myself for many years. I feel terrible imagining how Sarah will feel knowing this, but I ask you to read it to the end. It was written in Jane's typically neat handwriting. What followed was a revelation that would shake the very foundation of my life. The first shocking truth was about Jim's birth. Mike, the henpecked husband, had a long-term mistress. Her name was Linda. She had initially worked as a receptionist at Mike's company, and to my astonishment, the letter revealed that Jim's real mother was Linda. Jane had been unable to conceive for years, and Mike, growing impatient, decided to have an heir with his mistress. The newborn Jim was then taken in by Mike and Jane to conceal the connection to the mistress. Jim himself never knew he was the child of a mistress. He was raised by us without knowing the truth. To this day, I don't know if that was the right choice. Jane's infertility and the existence of a mistress. Above all, the decision to raise a child born from an affair. Imagining the painful days Jane endured, tears welled up in my eyes. The letter also explained why Jane never divorced Mike. Jane's family had been financially dependent on Mike for years. This was the reason she endured it all. My family relied on the support from Mike's family to survive. Without that support, my parents and siblings would not have been able to live. Thinking about that, I had no choice but to endure any humiliation in silence. Jane knew about the mistress and carried the burden of not being able to have children while supporting Mike's family for many years. The letter also mentioned that Henry was now with Mike's mistress. The reason was simple. The mistress wanted to raise Mike's heir herself. Perhaps the loss of her biological son, Jim, at a young age, had left her emotionally unstable. Mike, knowing all this, let Linda do as she wished. Even when Jim was alive, she frequently requested meetings with Henry through Mike. What I want to convey to Sarah is that I have always regretted the life I chose, bound to Mike, and for involving Jim in it. That's why I don't want Henry to feel the same pain. At the end of the letter, Jane wrote, I wanted to help Sarah because I don't want you to carry the same burden as me. The money in the container is all I have left to my name. Use it however you wish. Please stay safe until I come to see you. When I finished reading the letter, I remained seated in the chair, staring blankly at the ceiling. The existence of a mistress, Jim's hidden origin, Jane's long years of suffering, it all weighed heavily on my heart, leaving me unable to sort through my emotions. Jim, protect Henry. Tears fell silently. The mystery behind Mike's erratic behavior, which I had witnessed over the years, finally became clear. Jane's internal struggles over the years. Thinking about it tightened my chest with a sorrow far deeper than anger. But I couldn't just sit there and cry. I had to be stronger if I wanted to bring Henry back. Jane, I have received your will, loud and clear. I folded the letter carefully, closed my eyes, and wiped my tears. Then I started to seriously contemplate a next step needed to change the situation. The next morning, the doorbell rang. My heartbeat quickened as I opened the front door, and there stood Jane, looking completely worn out. The moment Jane saw my face, she deeply apologized. "Sarah, I'm so sorry." Jane's voice trembled. Her usual cold demeanor was gone, and she continued to apologize through her tears. "Because I couldn't stand up to Mike. I caused you so much pain. But no matter what happens, I will get Henry back. Please believe me on that." If I had read this letter earlier, I might not have forgiven Jane. But now that I knew her story, my mind was already made up. "It's okay, Jane. I don't blame you anymore. Let's work together to bring Henry back." Hearing those words, Jane lifted her face, wiped her tears, and nodded slightly. Jane said she was still pretending to keep me locked in the storage room. Because of this, Mike hadn't realized yet that I had escaped, but that disguise could be uncovered at any moment. This meant we had to act quickly. First, to pinpoint Henry's location, we devised a plan. We decided to hide a GPS tracker in Henry's favorite backpack. Jane would hand it over to Mike, ensuring it reached the mistress through him. "This will help us locate him. Henry must be with the mistress, so once Mike delivers this to her, we'll know the exact location." I nodded at Jane's words, clutching my smartphone tightly. A few hours later, the GPS tracker began moving. As planned, Henry's backpack arrived at what appeared to be the mistress's home. We quickly prepared and headed to the location indicated by the GPS. But when we arrived, it was a high-rise apartment building. Although we had located the area, we couldn't determine the specific apartment number. We decided to stake out a spot where we could monitor the building's entrance. By evening, we finally saw Mike, the mistress, and Henry emerge together. "Henry, Mom." Henry spotted me and ran toward me with a smile. The moment I embraced his small body, relief washed over me, and I couldn't hold back my tears. "It's okay now, Henry. I'll be with you from now on." But that emotional reunion was abruptly interrupted by Mike and the mistress, who erupted in anger. "Why is Sarah here? Did Jane do this? This is ridiculous," Mike shouted, his face red with fury, while the mistress flailed her arms in protest. "Henry is going to be raised by us. Stay out of this. He's Mike's heir, after all. Henry is my son. I will never let you take him again," I shouted, out of breath. "I'm going to hold you accountable for kidnapping Henry and locking me away. Get ready for what's coming." "Accountable? Ha, money can fix everything," Mike sneered. "Do you even know who I am? The police or anyone else can't touch me." "Oh, really?" I pulled out a communication device I had been hiding in my pocket and held it up. Mike froze for a moment as he realized it was active. What is that?" At that moment, police officers appeared behind us. "Mike, Linda, you're coming with us to the station." Mike's face turned pale as the officer spoke. Desperately, he began stammering excuses. "Wait, listen to me. I'm a company executive. I can pay any amount." Beside him, his mistress fiercely protested. "That boy is my grandson. I didn't kidnap him. Let me go." Yet the officers unyieldingly pushed both of them into the patrol car. Holding Henry tightly, I listened as the sound of the patrol car faded into the distance. Overwhelmed, whether by the tense atmosphere or the relief, Henry's small body shook as he sobbed uncontrollably. It was as though he was physically expressing all the fear and anxiety he had endured. "I'm sorry I took so long, but it's okay now, Henry. I promise I'll always be with you from now on." Through my tears, I spoke to Henry, who, still crying, replied in a soft voice, "Mom, I missed you." Those words pierced my heart. The pain of not being able to protect Henry and the joy of finally reuniting swirled within me, and I couldn't stop crying. At that moment, I heard a small sigh from beside me. Turning, I saw Jane watching us quietly, her face showing relief, but her eyes reflecting a new resolve. I'm turning myself in. Her words left me stunned and confused. Why, Jane, you helped us. You don't deserve to be punished, Sarah. Jane's unusually firm voice cut me off mid-sentence. I locked you in that storage room. I can't run away from that fact. Even if I helped for Henry's sake, it doesn't excuse what I did. I tried to persuade her with all my might. There was no reason for Jane to burden herself with guilt. Without her, I might still be trapped in that cramped storage room, drowning in despair. But Jane's resolve was unshakable. I need to end this. I have to atone for my mistakes. Otherwise, I can't face Henry, Sarah, or Jim. With that, she quietly walked toward the police officers. As I watched her back retreating, tears streamed down my face. Later, Jane confessed everything to the police. She revealed how Mike and his mistress had planned to abduct Henry and imprison me in the storage room. She also exposed Mike's years of embezzlement and bribery at his company. The information she provided became damning evidence against him. The news spread quickly, plunging the company where Mike served as an executive into chaos. An internal investigation uncovered more evidence of embezzlement and bribery, leading to Mike's immediate dismissal. Not only that, but the company also filed a massive lawsuit against him for damages. The total amount was impossible to pay, and he quickly filed for bankruptcy. Meanwhile, his lover was also held accountable as an accomplice to his crimes. It turned out that she had suggested locking me up to take Henry away. Furthermore, her deep involvement in the embezzlement scheme was revealed, and she too faced trial. Although she received a sentence with probation, her social credibility was completely shattered, leaving her to live a life of isolation. On the other hand, Jane's truthful testimony and cooperation with the police were highly regarded, and she was not charged with any crimes. This finally brings everything to an end, Jane said, her face looking somehow relieved. About 6 months after the incident, the long days of chaos finally ended, and Henry and I had begun a new chapter in our lives. There was someone else joining us in this new life. It was Jane. After the incident, Jane officially divorced Mike. Mike's embezzlement and bribery had destroyed his reputation entirely. Most of his assets were lost due to restitution payments, leaving Jane with almost nothing when she left their home. It was I who proposed the idea of living together to Jane. Sarah, that's impossible. I'm just an outsider to you and Henry. She was likely concerned about not being Henry's biological grandmother. Jane's words carried no trace of her former coldness. Instead, they reflected deep self-reproach. I held her hand, looked her straight in the eye, and told her, "That doesn't matter. To Henry, there's only one grandma in this world. And that's you, Jane. Henry and I both want you to live with us." Hearing this, Henry whispered softly, "I want to be with Grandma too." Henry's words seemed to dissolve Jane's last bit of hesitation, and so our new life as a family of 3 began. The apartment we moved into wasn't particularly spacious, but it had a comforting warmth. While I started working outside the home, Jane took care of Henry and handled all the household chores. Henry continued to call Jane Grandma, and he leaned on her without hesitation. Every time Henry called her that, I could see Jane's expression soften with a gentle smile. I also made it a priority to spend time talking with Jane. Knowing the pain and regrets she had endured in her life, I wanted to be there to support her. Just recently, we all visited Jim's grave together. The incident had occurred so soon after Jim's funeral that we hadn't had a proper chance to mourn. Jim, Henry is growing up well. Jane is with us too. Please rest assured." Standing in front of his grave under the clear blue sky, I spoke these words in my heart. Beside me, Henry placed a small bouquet of flowers he had brought. "Thank you, Dad," he murmured softly in his young voice. Jane quietly closed her eyes. The sudden loss of Jim still lingers as a painful memory in our hearts. Yet, I firmly believe that protecting the son Jim loved so dearly is my mission. On the way home, Henry held our hands and smiled. "Let's visit Dad again, Grandma, Mom." That smile made both Jane and me return a warm smile naturally. Together, the three of us will continue this new life. It felt like I could see a hopeful future ahead.
Outdated fashion. Go home, poor girl. In the job interview that meant everything to me, I was dismissed with a gesture like shooing away a stray cat. Ms. Jones mocked the only precious suit I inherited from my mother. "What's wrong with my suit?" I wanted to ask confidently, but reality made it hard to speak up. Ms. Jones was the interviewer, and I was just a job-seeking student. There was no way I could muster up the courage to say something bold. I averted my eyes from Ms. Jones, who was confidently crossing her arms, and bit my lip hard. Working at this company had been my dream since I was a child, but now that dream was about to be shattered. At that moment, the door behind me knocked and quietly opened. "Sorry to interrupt the interview. I could hear voices outside." Ms. Jones's eyes widened. "You are..." Ms. Jones frowned, but her mouth softened. Pointing at Mom and me, she was trying to hold back her laughter. Ms. Jones didn't know yet that she was about to lose everything. "I am Luna Davis, 20 years old. I am now a fashion student who loves stylish clothes. But when I was little, I was always hungry and lost in a world of imagination." "Teacher, more please. The food at the daycare is so delicious. Luna wants extra servings 100 times. At daycare, I ate more than the bigger boys. Our family meals weren't necessarily bad, but meat and fish were scarce, with beans and sprouts being the main components. That's why I remember being so shocked by the hamburger steak full of meat and the crunchy fried shrimp at the daycare. In other words, my family was poor back then. My mother had me in her early 30s. Shortly before, my dad passed away from illness without ever seeing my face. Determined to raise me well on her own, my mom was cruelly laid off by her company despite taking FMLA leave. Today, FMLA leave is a rightful benefit, but back then, working women with children were considered a burden. As a result, our family was very poor. But I always wore cute, frilly clothes, so I didn't realize how tough our life was. Luna is a princess. When will the prince come to pick her up? I would look out the window, searching for a carriage carrying my prince. I don't remember any friends or teachers laughing at me for gobbling up the school lunches. Despite our extreme poverty, my heart remained unbroken, thanks to the kind people around us. Our life began to change when I was in elementary school. Mom's job, which she worked tirelessly day and night, started to stabilize. We could eat normal meals at home. Mom quit her night shifts at the factory, and I was happy to sleep together with her at night. "Hey Mom, can you make matching clothes for me and my friends?" "Yes, of course, honey." Even when we were poor, I wore cute clothes because Mom could sew. She would repurpose her own clothes and tailor them into outfits I liked. Honestly, we couldn't afford new clothes, but I loved and was proud of the custom-made outfits Mom made just for me. Once we had a bit more financial leeway, we could buy fabric, and I would request matching skirts and accessories for my friends and me. Influenced by Mom, I grew to love clothes and left a note in my elementary school graduation yearbook saying I wanted to be a fashion designer. That dream is now within reach. I've been studying hard at a fashion college. Now, it's time to job hunt. Looking up at the building where my top choice apparel company is located, I felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. The first interview at this company is in a week. Wow, I'm really going to work here. I couldn't help but say it out loud. At that moment, a woman in her 30s came out of the building, her high heels clicking as she approached. "Oh? A middle school student here for social studies? You're in the way, standing around in front of our building. What?" She made a shooing gesture as if she were chasing away a stray cat and entered a fancy Italian restaurant next to the building. The woman, dressed in a light blue suit that showed off her figure, with long hair flowing and walking with confidence, was full of self-assurance. I was stunned for a moment, but then my cheeks started to feel hot. I might have a baby face, but there's no way I look like a middle school student. She was just making fun of me. This kind of petty insult doesn't hurt me. But it was a shock. She was wearing the employee badge of the fashion company I had always dreamed of working for. However, there are always strong-willed and unfriendly people everywhere. Her behavior won't diminish my admiration for the company. In fact, it strengthened my resolve to try even harder. A week later, I was on the train with my mom, swaying with the movement. Even though we hadn't even reached the company yet, I was sitting up straight in my seat. "Hey, you're too nervous. If you're like this now, what will you do during the interview?" "Yeah, you're right." "Come on, take a deep breath." Urged by my mom, I took a deep breath and exhaled. Even so, my heart was pounding loudly. I was embarrassed, thinking other people on the nearly full train could hear my heartbeat. This is strange. I'm not usually this nervous. "It shows how serious you are. You've dreamed of joining that company since you were a child." Mom took my hand. My hand, cold from nervousness, gradually warmed up. "Thanks, Mom. I'll do my best in the interview. I'll definitely get the job." That's the spirit. This is just the first interview. There are second and third rounds. Do your best. My chest tightened. I couldn't tell if Mom was trying to encourage me or scare me. "Mom is cheering for you. You're wearing the suit I cherished, so think of me being with you during the interview." "Right. Wearing your suit gives me strength." I gently touched the smooth fabric of my chest. Then, a woman's voice came from above my head. "Hey, can you stand up?" I didn't realize she was talking to me at first, but I looked up suddenly. There was a familiar woman. Ah! It was the same female employee who had called me a middle school student a week ago. She didn't seem to recognize me from just one encounter and looked down at me with suspicion as I made a small sound. "Hey, student. How can you sit so comfortably in such a crowded train? Students should give up their seats to working adults. Can you explain why you're sitting here?" "What?" I was taken aback and couldn't respond. I had practiced my self-introduction and reasons for applying until I could do it in my sleep, but I wasn't prepared for this question. "Oh, excuse me. Are you pregnant? Or maybe you have both legs broken. It doesn't look like it, though." She looked me up and down, making me want to flee, and I stood up quickly. However, I was pulled back by Mom and sank into my seat. "This is not a priority seat. Whether you're a student or a working adult, everyone has the right to sit here. Of course, if there are elderly people or pregnant women nearby, we would offer our seats regardless. Do you have a particular reason for needing to sit down?" Mom calmly responded. The woman, not expecting a retort, turned bright red. "Well, like mother, like daughter. We're honored by your compliment." Mom placed her hand on her chest and smiled. The woman turned even redder and breathed heavily. "I wasn't complimenting you. Ugh, it's so frustrating. Job seekers with parents tagging along are the absolute worst." Pointing her finger at me, the woman spoke clearly, as if giving a lecture. "I'll say this clearly. No company needs someone like you. If you go to interviews with your mom, there's no way you'll get a proper job." I was just stunned. Mom, about to say something in anger, watched as the woman quickly moved to another car. Being criticized by a stranger for no reason made me feel incredibly frustrated. Though I had prepared to answer any question in an interview, I felt powerless for not being able to respond at all, and I sighed deeply. After getting off the train, I saw Mom off as she headed to work. I settled down alone in a cafe near the company to calm my nerves before the interview. It's like a mosquito bite. Don't let it bother you, and just be yourself in the interview, Luna. I recalled the encouraging words Mom had said before we parted. With about an hour left before the interview, I managed to regain my composure. But when the interview began, the moment I pushed the door open and said, "Excuse me," I turned pale, unable to hide my shock. "Oh, the student from this morning." In front of me was the woman from the train. She was one of the interviewers, looking at me with a meaningful, thin smile. "Hello, I'm Jones from Product Development. There's no need to be so nervous. Relax." She spoke like a kind supervisor, sending chills down my spine. The woman who introduced herself as Jones and another man, Mr. Smith from HR, were the interviewers. Facing Ms. Jones, I couldn't help but feel tense. I was anxious and unsettled. But it's okay. I could recite my self-introduction and reasons for applying even in my sleep. I tried to stay calm. However, the interview didn't proceed as expected. Luna Davis? Oh wow. You're aspiring to be a designer?" Without giving me a chance to speak, Ms. Jones laughed after checking my resume. She continued rapidly without pausing for breath. All right. Unfortunately, Ms. Davis, you are not selected. We wish you the best in your future endeavors elsewhere." I, as well as Mr. Smith, looked at Ms. Jones in surprise. "Ms. Jones, please stop. This is quite inappropriate." Mr. Smith reprimanded Ms. Jones sternly. But Ms. Jones, unfazed, continued to speak fluently. "The weird one here is Ms. Davis. Look at her suit. Coming to an interview in such a shabby suit? There's no way she'll be hired." "What? Her suit is perfectly normal. In fact, it seems to be made of good material and fits her well. Probably a tailored suit?" Ignoring Mr. Smith's confusion, Ms. Jones continued. "Oh, Mr. Smith, you're so kind. You really don't need to be so nice to job-seeking students who have no connection to our company." Ms. Jones placed both hands on Mr. Smith's shoulders in an exaggerated touch. Ms. Jones, dressed impeccably and strikingly beautiful, casually leaned on Mr. Smith, who looked to be in his 40s with refined features. It felt as if a party had suddenly started. Wait, this is my life-changing interview, right? My brain was spinning. Noticing my gaze, Ms. Jones's flirtatious smile quickly disappeared. "Ms. Davis, don't misunderstand his kindness. Know your place." "Oh dear, don't you feel embarrassed dressing like that? Just looking at you makes me embarrassed. Such outdated fashion. Go home, you poor thing." She made a shooing gesture, as if chasing away a stray cat. The word poor pierced me deeply. I remembered being told something similar by an elderly neighbor when I was in high school. "It's really good that you're no longer struggling financially. When Luna was little, it was sad because you could never get new clothes." She was a kind old lady who often gave young me snacks. I knew she meant no harm. She was simply expressing relief at my improved circumstances. Being called poor by Ms. Jones made me choke up. But I wasn't a pitiable child, nor was I dressed shamefully. "What's wrong with my suit?" I wanted to ask boldly, but reality kept my voice from coming out. Ms. Jones was an interviewer, and I was just a job-seeking student. I couldn't muster the courage to say anything defiant. Avoiding Ms. Jones's smug look, I bit my lip hard. Working at this company had been my dream since childhood, and now that dream was crumbling. At that moment, there was a knock on the door behind me, which then quietly opened. "Excuse me for interrupting." I could hear the voices outside. That voice, the one I loved most in the world, made tears well up. Turning slowly, there she was, just as I'd hoped. "Outdated fashion, you say? That's unfortunate. I tailored that suit myself." Mom, expressionless, stared directly at Ms. Jones. Ms. Jones's eyes widened. "You!" Her eyebrows furrowed, but a smile tugged at her lips. Pointing at Mom and me, she nearly burst out laughing. "Mom, your mom is here." Unable to hold back, Ms. Jones laughed, clutching her stomach. "Oh, we get these parents all the time. So many parents who call on behalf of their kids. But you're the first to actually crash an interview." Amused as Ms. Jones was, Mom remained stone-faced. Her expression of displeasure at Ms. Jones's laughter was evident. "This is my first time crashing an interview too. But it was too horrible to ignore. That wasn't an interview. I couldn't stay silent. Yes, parents will always worry about their kids. But you need to cut the cord or you'll hinder their job search. No company in their right mind would hire someone with their mom tagging along." Ms. Jones puffed up with self-satisfaction. Despite her taunts, Mom's eyes were fixed and intense, enough to scare even me, her daughter. Mom, who usually spoke softly, now had a deep, resonant voice. "You said you're Ms. Jones from Product Development, right? I'll remember that name clearly." Ms. Jones' laughter suddenly stopped. She instantly realized that remembering her name meant a complaint might be filed against her company. Ms. Jones had been enjoying herself too much, forgetting her position. Being mean to a job applicant might go unnoticed. But if the applicant's mother steps in, it's a different story. Especially if the mother is concerned enough to come to the interview, who knows how much she might exaggerate and make a big fuss. Ms. Jones' emotions were readable from her increasingly strained expression. "No, Mrs. Davis. I just meant that our company might not be a good fit for your child. We're a fashion company, and we're really looking for people with a strong interest in fashion. Joining our company would only be tough for Ms. Davis. So, it was out of kindness, real kindness. I wanted to take a firm stance and show Ms. Davis that there's surely a better place for her." "I see." "Yes, exactly. Working in a company that doesn't fit can be incredibly stressful. I'm just really concerned about Ms. Davis's future and mental well-being, that's all." She was desperately trying to calm the situation with poor excuses, claiming it was all for my benefit. "I understand." Mom nodded several times, and Ms. Jones sighed in relief. She slightly raised the corner of her mouth. She must have felt reassured that my mother was more reasonable than expected. Although she had been trying to calm Mom's anger, she became more confident once she realized we were easy to handle. "I'm really sorry. We handle pretty expensive clothes here. It's just that people who come to interviews in their mother's suit, you know." Ms. Jones clapped her hands and, with a somewhat professional demeanor, delivered her final words. "Yes, that concludes the interview. Thank you very much for today. Please take care on your way home, holding hands with your mother." Mom and I kept a straight face, while Mr. Smith turned pale. Only Ms. Jones maintained a facade of a proper professional. "Well, excuse us." Mom was about to leave normally, but I grabbed her hand impulsively. "Mom, let's hold hands and go." My behavior, more like a preschooler than a middle school student, made Ms. Jones give a hollow laugh. I smiled at the surprised mom. "I'm disappointed that a company I admired has an employee like Ms. Jones. Mom, let's go. Let's report this to someone higher up in the product development department." "What?" I hadn't been able to speak at all before, but I didn't want to turn my back and run away while being mocked by Ms. Jones. I couldn't stay silent if even my mom, who came to help, was looked down upon. "What? Wait, no, that's not allowed. We can't have outsiders wandering around inside the company." "That won't be a problem. Mom is not an outsider." "What?" Mr. Smith, who had been silent, finally spoke, his blue lips trembling. "Ms. Jones, stop it. Don't you know? You must have seen her face a few times." Mr. Smith seemed to have realized Mom's true identity. He was so shocked he couldn't even speak, losing all color from his face. And no wonder. He must have been anxious about Ms. Jones' behavior. "Do you not know the owner of your company?" "What? Our president is a man." "No, the owner." "The owner?" When Ms. Jones looked at Mr. Smith, he slowly and significantly nodded. "Our president is hired. And the owner is over there. Yes, Mom is the owner and president of this apparel company. Ms. Jones, flustered by this fact, began to frantically pat her hair, trying to smooth it down. It's not her hair that's out of place, but her character, making her efforts to tidy herself meaningless. I apologize for the late introduction. I am the owner of this company. Mom introduced herself. Ms. Jones froze with her mouth and eyes wide open. This apparel company was started by Mom alone. While raising me, she worked day and night, running a small clothing store. At that time, Mom was so busy that she hardly had any time to sleep. I don't remember seeing her sleep in bed until her business became stable. During that time, her handmade clothing store gradually grew into what it is today. However, a few years ago, she became ill and entrusted a reliable employee with the position of president. Now that she has stepped back from work, she has recovered completely. Mom laughs, saying her great success was just good luck. But I respected Mom, believing it was the result of her extraordinary effort, sense, and skill. That's unfair! How can a job-seeking student's parent be an executive of the company? If your mom is so important, why did you pretend to be a poor student looking for a job? Was it to deceive me? To trap me? Ms. Jones, lost in her wild imagination, ranted hysterically. I just didn't want to use my connections to get hired. Besides, I didn't pretend to be a poor student. Liar! You came here wearing your mother's clothes. Ms. Jones must have overheard our conversation on the train this morning. Wearing my mother's suit. From that alone, she jumped to the conclusion that I couldn't afford a new suit and had to wear my mother's hand-me-downs. Such shallow thinking. This suit was indeed worn by my mother. But it's a precious suit that she tailored herself when she was young, the only one of its kind in the world. I want to cherish it and wear it now. Is that so strange? I asked calmly. Of course, my body shape is different from my mother's, and fashion preferences change over time. So she retailored it to fit me perfectly. It still carries my mother's warmth while looking brand new. Does Ms. Jones really see this suit as an outdated suit worn by a poor person? Unable to respond, Mom spoke to Ms. Jones. For someone in this line of work, you have no eye for quality. Perhaps you should study again? Ms. Jones gritted her teeth and squinted her eyes in frustration. Realizing she couldn't escape, Ms. Jones turned her anger towards Mom. I don't care if you're the owner or whatever, it's outrageous to burst into an interview like this. Do you think owners have the right to disrupt interviews? No matter how worried you are about your child, this is unacceptable. Is this what overprotective parents do? She shrugged her shoulders and insulted Mom as much as she could. Standing tall and puffing out her chest, trying to make herself look as imposing as possible. Ms. Jones resembled an anteater trying hard to be intimidating. Even if the job applicant wasn't my child, I would intervene if I saw an interview like that. Or is it wrong for an owner to get directly involved? The purpose of the first interview is to screen out those who don't meet the criteria. Presidents, officers, or owners typically don't get involved. Eavesdropping on the interview is in bad taste. Does this mean you don't trust young people like us? Ms. Jones dragged Mr. Smith into the situation, patting him on the back. Mr. Smith, tensing his body, shook his head vigorously as if to insist he was not on Ms. Jones's side. Mom exhaled. Yeah, I don't trust you. Ms. Jones froze in silence at the unexpected statement. In fact, I've heard about your reputation, Ms. Jones. Did you just happen to mistreat my daughter this time? It seems you're quite used to belittling people. Ms. Jones's face gradually turned red, and sweat began to bead on her forehead. You just said you exclude candidates who don't meet your criteria in the first interview, right? Are you always thinking about how to crush the spirits of job seekers? I understood what my mom was implying. Apparently, Ms. Jones did too. Ms. Jones's eyes darted away from my mom's gaze. Ms. Jones, there have been numerous complaints against you. You're aware of that, right? The very Ms. Jones who accused my mom of being unreasonable was the one acting most unreasonably. Ms. Jones had become an interviewer for the first time this year. She must have thought she had become important, holding the fate of job seekers in her hands. There have been reports of pressure interviews and interviewers fiddling with their phones instead of listening. As a representative of our company, you were entrusted with the role of an interviewer, but you have disappointed us. Ms. Jones could only mutter, unable to make any excuses. And there's a question about your selection in the first interview. Why do you give bad evaluations to students from prestigious universities and to women? Ms. Jones looked around, but of course, had no allies. The fingers she touched to her lips were trembling. And yet, you give high evaluations to so-called handsome men. You're certainly true to your own desires. While it's right to hire students you want to work with, it's problematic if you select them based on your own biased preferences. Apparently, Ms. Jones had been flagged as a problematic interviewer. People with such twisted personalities are likely good at ingratiating themselves with their superiors. Even if complaints were made, she would likely justify herself cleverly. If it's someone like me, who isn't usually involved with you, you wouldn't be on guard if I were nearby, right? When I checked your interviews, they were worse than I expected. Ms. Jones, flustered and not knowing what to do, changed her expressions rapidly, puffing her cheeks and opening her mouth wide as if her jaw would dislocate, but it was far from amusing. Suddenly, Ms. Jones's expression went blank and she stopped moving, as if her batteries had run out. When I turned to where her vacant eyes were staring, a group of people had gathered behind us. Section chief, department head, managing director, president. It was indeed the company's upper management. Ms. Jones, being glared at by the cross-armed executives, seemed about to faint. Additionally, regular employees were peeking into the room, whispering amongst themselves. Ms. Jones's provocative voice had been unusually loud. Mom probably hadn't intended to make a scene, but it was Ms. Jones's own commotion that drew everyone in. The contemptuous looks directed at Ms. Jones, and the inaudible whispers mercilessly attacked her psyche. Sorry, President Owner. For severely damaging the company's reputation, you will face appropriate consequences. But the ones you should apologize to the most are the students who earnestly sought employment. Ms. Jones's black pupils fixed on me. For a moment, she seemed about to apologize, but she couldn't continue and bit her lip. It seems her pride still gets in the way. Not being able to say sorry is worse than a preschooler. Realizing I was looked down upon by someone of her caliber made her numerous insults feel like insignificant ramblings. Ms. Jones crumbled to the floor, clutching her head, tears streaming down her face. The aura of a competent woman who could handle her work had completely vanished. No one felt sympathy for the crying Ms. Jones, and no one offered a helping hand. Ms. Jones was demoted from her position as team leader of the product development department to a regular employee. Additionally, she was placed on suspension. She had been able to behave as she pleased during interviews because she had been blackmailing Mr. Smith, who also conducted interviews. After just one night together following a company party, she acted as if she had a claim on him. Mr. Smith had a family, so he couldn't afford to have his mistake exposed. As a result, he was completely under her control. Incidentally, Mr. Smith was also demoted. Shameless Ms. Jones returned to work after her suspension as if nothing had happened, but her bullying during interviews and threats towards Mr. Smith had become widely known within the company, creating an unbearable situation far beyond what she could have imagined. Mr. Smith. She tried to cozy up to her only supposed ally, Mr. Smith, but he naturally avoided her. Department head, I apologize for the trouble I caused. She then tried to ingratiate herself with the department head, but no matter how humbly she behaved, everyone knew her harsh true nature. It was said that people kept a 1-meter radius around her, avoiding her as much as possible. Unable to bear the miserable environment, Ms. Jones resigned just 1 week after her suspension was lifted. I thought I would never have to deal with her again, but then I saw her on the train. "Hey, could you get up?" A cold voice echoed through the crowded train. I looked towards the voice and saw Ms. Jones, impeccably dressed in a suit. She was staring at a girl in a school uniform sitting down. "Students should give up their seats to working adults, right? Can you tell me why a student like you is sitting while someone who works is standing?" The high school-aged girl was taken aback by the sudden confrontation. I was shocked that she was still bullying weaker people. Ms. Jones crossed her arms. "What? Are you pregnant or something?" she taunted. Though a bit scared, I decided to intervene and weave through the crowd to approach her. Just as I was about to say something, someone tapped Ms. Jones on the shoulder from behind. "What is it?" Ms. Jones froze in place as she turned around. Standing there was a man twice her size. He has a buzz cut and thick, intimidating eyebrows. "Do you have a problem with my girlfriend?" No, not really." Ms. Jones instantly hunched over, her voice shrinking. Relieved that I didn't need to step in, I accidentally made eye contact with Ms. Jones. "You!" She started toward me in the crowded train. "Do you have any idea what I went through because of you?" I heard you lost your job or something." Overwhelmed by her intensity, I responded. "Oh, that outfit, it's a suit. Did you get a new job?" "No, I didn't. I can't even get past the application stage anywhere. Did you set it up so all the interviewers would harass me?" Ms. Jones yelled at me, her voice echoing through the train car. She seemed to forget we were in public, her anger making her oblivious. Over there, a group of young girls started laughing. "Scary. An unemployed woman pretending to be a career woman." They laughed openly, not caring who heard. Other passengers joined in the laughter. "No, that's not it." The young girls pointed their phone cameras at Ms. Jones. She hid her face, all her previous bravado vanished. She couldn't hurl insults at strong men or young girls. Losing her job and her dignity, this was the pathetic end of a delusional woman. As for me, I had to redo my job interview, but I successfully landed a position at the fashion company I wanted. I couldn't start as a designer right away, so there was a lot to learn on the job. Even though I was praised as a talented student, I realized I was just a novice in the professional world. "Shall I make a dress for you again, Luna?" "Really? I'm so happy. Then I'll make a dress for Mom too." Sewing fabric while imagining the smile on my loved one's face made me incredibly happy. "Maybe I'll add cute lace like I used to?" "Come on. My tastes have changed. Actually, you like making cute clothes, don't you? How about starting a Lolita fashion brand?" Mom tilted her head as if she wanted to say something. No matter how successful or promoted I become in the future, I want to hold on to this pure love for clothes.
Dad and Mom died in an accident.
On the day a severe cold wave hit, my parents were on their way home when their car slipped on the icy road and plunged into a river, never to return. The memories after that are vague. I cried, fell asleep from exhaustion, woke up and cried again, repeating this cycle every day. At the funeral and during the burial, I cried openly without caring about anyone around me. For a while, I couldn't go to school and stayed shut in my room.
I'm here for you. Let's live together, just the two of us.
Sean, who had become my brother 2 years ago, said this to me as he stayed by my side. Even though Sean was in the same situation, he was always concerned about me, and I felt sorry for that. I can honestly feel that now, but back then, my heart was so worn out that I couldn't think straight. "Sean, why do you live so detached?" He must think that he's an adult now and that he can manage without our parents. Such twisted thoughts led me to lash out at Sean. "My name is Alyssa." "Golf again?"
I have to. It's a work obligation.
I could hear my parents arguing in the next room. Here it goes again. I knew that recently my parents started fighting often after I had gone to bed. As a little girl, this made me anxious every time, and I would hug my stuffed rabbit tightly under the covers. My father, Cameron, was a busy man. During the weekdays, it was rare for him to come home while I was still awake. On weekends, he was often out playing golf with his boss from work. So, I hardly had any memories of doing things with my parents as a family. However, my dad would talk to me kindly and bring me my favorite chocolate cake. I wanted to spend more time with him. So, I asked,
Dad, can we go to the aquarium for my 7th birthday?
My dad gently patted my head with his large hand and said,
Wow, Alyssa, you're already turning 7. You're growing up fast. Okay, let's all go to the aquarium.
Yay! A family outing. I was thrilled and eagerly looked forward to my birthday. But then, this Sunday is Alyssa's birthday. You promised we'd go to the aquarium.
We can celebrate with a cake at night.
From their argument, I realized we wouldn't be going to the aquarium, so I crawled under my blanket and cried a little. When my birthday came, I went to the aquarium with my mom, Miranda. Let's eat cake together tonight, the 3 of us. Miranda acted cheerfully the whole time, trying to keep my spirits up since my dad couldn't make it. But in the afternoon, her face darkened after a phone call. It was my dad.
Sorry, I have a company dinner tonight.
Okay. Miranda said only that and hung up. Alyssa, Dad can't celebrate with us tonight.
I see.
I wasn't a priority to Dad. I realized that. Mommy doesn't want to be with someone who can't keep promises to you.
Okay.
Mommy is thinking of divorcing Dad. I'll make sure to make you happy, just the 2 of us, okay?
Okay.
On my 7th birthday, my mom decided to divorce. After that, my dad almost never came home, and a month later, the divorce was finalized. My mom and I started living just the 2 of us. Although my dad left, we stayed in the same apartment. Even before the divorce, my mom and I often ate meals and went out together, so our life didn't change much after the divorce. However, my mom seemed to be quite tense. She was making a noticeable effort to talk to me more than usual, trying to cheer me up and make me laugh.
Mom, are you still up?
Oh, I'm sorry if I woke you. I'll be done soon, so go ahead and sleep, Alyssa. My mom started working on her laptop more often after finishing all the household chores. When I asked, she told me she had been very busy lately and couldn't finish her work during the day. Because of my presence, she couldn't work overtime at the office. So she was working at home like this.
Don't overwork yourself.
It's okay. I'll make sure to take care of you, so don't worry. Not wanting to burden my mom, who was working so hard for me, I started to watch her and adjust my actions accordingly. We both cared so much about each other that, before we knew it, an invisible wall had formed between us. The ones who broke down that wall were my mom's boss and his son. I first met them about a year after the divorce. How about we go out for burgers? One day, my mom took me to a small burger joint in the neighborhood. As we entered the restaurant, my mom smiled and nodded at a man sitting there. Good evening. This is my daughter, Alyssa. Who is this old man? I wondered, feeling puzzled as she introduced me to a stranger.
Nice to meet you. I'm Cody. I work with your mom. And this is my son, Sean, a high school senior. I'm Sean. Nice to meet you.
They both nodded at me, and I hurriedly bowed my head. Since my mom confidently sat opposite her boss, I took the seat next to her. Cody is my boss. He always helps me at work. The name Cody vaguely stuck in my mind, but I said nothing and waited for him to speak.
Sorry for the informal setting.
The boss shrugged apologetically and said in a low voice.
For me, burgers are a treat.
Sean chimed in casually from the side. I couldn't help but laugh at the contrasting attitudes.
I love the burgers here too. We don't eat out often, so this is a special treat for me as well.
Hearing our conversation, the restaurant owner gave us a warm look. That day, we just chatted about trivial things and then parted ways, but after that, we started meeting Cody and Sean more often. Since we didn't have a car, Cody would drive us to various places. The beach, rivers, mountains. Our outings were always in nature. We had unknowingly been seeking man-made attractions like shopping and amusement parks, so visiting natural spots was quite a shock to us. While there wasn't much excitement, being in front of the sea or mountains made us feel physically and emotionally fulfilled. My mom and Cody often talked happily. Not wanting to intrude on their time together, I would occasionally distance myself from them. I felt a bit lonely, but I didn't have the courage to talk to Sean, who was 10 years older than me. Sensing my feelings, Sean often struck up conversations with me.
I got 45 on my last English test, so I got a ton of homework.
Hearing Sean laugh as he said that, I slowly started to open up to him.
You're a senior, right? What do you plan to do after graduation?
I'm interested in agriculture, so I want to go to college and study more.
Agriculture?
Yeah. I want to try growing vegetables.
So you need to study hard if you want to go to college.
You're absolutely right.
Thanks to Sean, who was always cheerful and friendly, I gradually began to open up to him. By the way, is there anything else we need to prepare for tomorrow's meeting with the client?
No, we're good. If you keep thinking about work even on your day off, neither your body nor your mind will get any rest.
I knew very well that Cody always cared about my mom. But there was something I needed to tell him.
Ever since the divorce, Mom has been working late into the night more and more. You're the boss, so you should do something to help her.
With that thought, I appealed to Cody. Cody looked at my mom with a surprised expression. Miranda looked somewhat uncomfortable and averted her gaze.
Miranda decided to go from part-time to full-time a year ago, saying she wanted to support Alyssa by herself. She's very thoughtful and has been a great help to us, but I'm sorry. I didn't know she was taking work home with her.
Cody looked apologetically at my mom and I. No, it's because I wanted to get better at my job faster. My mom said, lifting Cody's head up, but Cody's face was more serious than ever as he looked straight at my mom.
I want you to rely on me more. Will you marry me?
The sudden proposal left not only my mom but also Sean and me gasping for breath.
I love the time we spend together as the four of us. I want us to become a family and spend even more wonderful moments together.
When I looked at my mom, her eyes were filled with tears. Seeing that, I felt a sense of relief. My mom had been tense ever since the divorce. But now, she had someone she could rely on. With Cody, who was always calm and had a heart as wide as the ocean, I was sure he would protect my mom. I was completely convinced.
I want us to live together as a family.
When I said that and looked at my mom, tears ran down her cheeks. I'm so happy. Thank you, everyone. Thus, when I was 10, my mom remarried Cody. We moved into their house and started living as a family of 4.
You don't have to call me Dad if you don't want to.
Cody kindly said, but before I knew it, I started calling Cody Dad. Sean also began to call Miranda Mom without realizing it. By spending time together, we gradually, naturally became a family. After the remarriage, my mom clearly changed. Cody had divorced his ex-wife 7 years ago. Since then, He had been living with Sean and could handle all the household chores.
I'll hang up the laundry so you go watch TV with Alyssa.
Cody often called out to my mom, who was bustling around. Thank you. At first, my mom was awkward, but she gradually began to rely on Cody and relaxed. I couldn't remember the last time I sat down and watched TV with my mom. I talked to my mom about various things. About growing tomatoes at school, or how the boy next door got scolded by the teacher, trivial things I couldn't share with my busy mom before. No matter what I talked about, my mom listened with joy, and the wall of hesitation between us disappeared. We'd wake up in the morning, have breakfast together, go to work or school, and naturally gather in the living room before bed. I was very happy with such mundane daily life. However, those happy days didn't last long. The situation changed drastically one winter when I was 12. They're saying it's the coldest snap of the season. Be careful, Sean. Sean, a senior in college who had already secured a job offer, had plans to attend an orientation meeting in the neighboring state that day.
All right. If I can't make it back, I'll let you know. Dad and Mom, drive safely. And Alyssa, you too. Come straight home, no detours.
Stop treating me like a kid.
Well, you are still a kid. I'm just worried about my cute little sister.
Our parents laughed as they watched our exchange. At that time, we never imagined that this would be the last time we'd share such a moment. As the news predicted, it was snowing even during the day. Just as Sean had instructed, I went straight home and warmed up the house, waiting for everyone to return. As my body warmed up, a sudden wave of drowsiness hit me. When I woke up, it was already pitch dark outside. The clock showed 8 p.m.
Oh no! It's so late already. Where are Dad and Mom?
Our parents worked at the same company, so they commuted together, but they still weren't home. I suddenly felt very lonely and called them, but neither Cody nor my mom answered. Feeling uneasy, I turned the TV volume up high.
I'm home. Wow, it's freezing out there.
Past 9 p.m., Sean finally came home, and I felt a bit relieved.
Sean, you're late. I'm starving.
Sorry about that. The train stopped halfway. But where are Dad and Mom?
Sean looked around the living room, surprised to see that our parents weren't home.
Hold on a sec.
Saying that, Sean quickly made some pasta. While I ate the pasta, Sean called our parents' company, only to find out that they had left the office by 6 p.m.
Maybe there's some road closure.
Sean also tried calling them, but no matter how many times he tried, they didn't answer. By 11 p.m., after dinner and a shower, the house phone rang.
Mom! Where are you?
I quickly answered the phone. But the voice on the other end was an unfamiliar man's voice. Noticing my reaction, Sean took the phone from me.
Hello. Yes, that's correct.
The next moment, I saw Sean's face twitch slightly. He turned away from me, gave a few short replies, and hung up the phone.
They said something about the police.
I asked nervously. Sean didn't look at me for a while, but after taking a few deep breaths, he sat me down on the couch. Then, holding both my hands, he spoke.
Alyssa, listen carefully. Dad and Mom, they died in an accident.
What?
The call was from a police officer. On their way home, our parents' car had slipped on an icy road and plunged into a river. A passerby had called for help immediately, but due to the severe cold, rescue efforts were delayed, and by around 9 p.m., they were found submerged at the bottom of the river. Dad and Mom, no way. I couldn't process this reality immediately.
It's late, but we need to go to the police.
Sean's voice was trembling. His big, warm hand held mine tightly, and I clung to it desperately. I don't remember how we got to the police station. But what I do remember clearly is seeing Dad and Mom lying side by side on beds, their bodies as cold as ice. Remembering our mundane morning conversation, I broke down and screamed. The following days are a blur. I cried, slept from exhaustion, woke up, and cried again, repeating this cycle. Even at the funeral and burial, I cried openly. I couldn't go to school for a while and stayed confined to my room.
Alyssa, don't worry. I'm here. We'll live together, just the two of us.
Sean, despite being in the same situation, came to support me with these words. Sean was in the same situation as I was, yet he was always concerned about me and my feelings. I felt guilty for being the focus of his care. Looking back, I realize how selfless he was, but at the time, my heart was worn out and I couldn't think clearly. I couldn't understand why he seemed so at peace even though he was in the same situation as I was. I thought maybe he felt he was old enough to be fine without our parents. This twisted way of thinking led me to lash out at Sean.
Dinner is ready, Alyssa.
Sean's kindness and warmth only made me feel more empty.
Leave me alone. Why don't you go out and have dinner with your friends instead?
Even though I was always lashing out at him, Sean never got angry and only looked at me with sad eyes.
I'll leave it here. Make sure you eat properly.
He said this every day as he continued to make meals for me. The cold season that took our parents passed, the cherry blossom season passed, and as the hot summer ended, I started junior high school. Though I wasn't entirely refreshed, I realized I couldn't stay withdrawn forever and decided to go to school. However, seeing so many parents at the entrance ceremony made me painfully aware that I no longer had parents. As my new life began, filled with anxiety, I had no parents to consult. I couldn't even open up to Sean, my only family, since that time. When a classmate invited me to join the band club, I declined vaguely because we couldn't afford it. This made me feel more isolated in my class, and I started withdrawing again. I began spending more time with a troubled group of students who also came from complicated family backgrounds or had issues of their own. Instead of going to school, I spent more time with them. As for Sean, he had a job offer from a company in the neighboring state, so I thought he would move there. But even when the new school year started, he stayed at home. He never went to work and spent all day at home. I was disappointed in Sean. What is he doing, hardly working? I realized I couldn't rely on him. Even though I rejected Sean, he continued to make meals for me every day. I couldn't understand what he was thinking. One day, I came home at 1 a.m.
I thought he might be angry. I'm home.
I entered the house quietly, but Sean was nowhere to be found. Instead of worrying about his sister coming home so late, was he out having fun himself? I got irrationally angry and avoided Sean even more. Even though I hung out with the troubled group, I felt closed off and lonely. Mrs. Martin, my homeroom teacher in the third year of junior high, was the one who reached out to me. Mrs. Martin came to my house in the evening of the first day of school when I didn't show up. Alyssa, what do you want to do from now on? When she asked, I thought for a moment.
I don't want to be like Sean.
I didn't want to be like Sean, who stayed home all day and went out at night instead of working. I remembered how hard my mom worked for us. I need to work properly too. Mrs. Martin listened quietly until the end. I understand your desire to be independent. But it seems you haven't found what you want to do yet. As long as the environment allows, I think it's better to study hard at school first and then decide on a job. Mrs. Martin told me that to broaden my life choices, I should go to high school and preferably college.
But Sean isn't working either, and we don't have that kind of money.
There are some high schools that offer scholarship programs. Tuition fees are waived for outstanding students. Why don't you give it a shot? Mrs. Martin said in a lively voice, almost as if she was enjoying the conversation. For the past 2 years of middle school, I had hardly studied at all. How was I supposed to catch up now and be ready for high school entrance exams?
Me, go to high school.
What do you mean by me? Look, you have a clearer desire to work than anyone else. That's amazing. Let's do our best this year. Mrs. Martin looked straight into my eyes and extended her hand. I gently took her hand. A warm hand. Adults around me had always looked at me with pity because I had no parents, but now, Mrs. Martin was looking at me directly, and I decided to trust her. From the next day, I started going to school. Of course, I couldn't keep up with the studies at all. But every day after school, Mrs. Martin helped me with my studies. Alyssa, you're good at piano, aren't you?
I took lessons in elementary school, but
I used to enjoy playing piano duets with my mom. Since my parents passed away, I haven't touched the piano once because it holds so many memories with my mom.
how did you know I'm good at piano, Mrs. Martin?
Oh. Well, look at your fingers, Alyssa. They're long and slender. I just had a hunch that these were a pianist's fingers.
Mrs. Martin, you're amazing.
Teachers pay close attention to their students, Mrs. Martin said with a smile. Mrs. Martin really watched over me. I felt reassured and decided to follow her guidance. Thanks to Mrs. Martin, my grades improved rapidly. I never really disliked studying. I just couldn't find the value in it while feeling so pessimistic about my existence. But now, I had a clear goal to work hard and become independent like Miranda, and if possible, go to college. So I studied hard for that. As a result, I got into a prestigious high school in the area. I was also chosen as a scholarship student and could attend high school without paying tuition. Alyssa, you'll be fine. I'll always be your teacher, so come to me with anything, Mrs. Martin said as she saw me off. Mrs. Martin showed me the path I should take. Having someone who watches over you is such a strong feeling. I promised myself that I wouldn't let Mrs. Martin down and that I would work hard towards my goals. I had perfect attendance for all 3 years of high school. Of course, I worked hard on my studies, but I also actively participated in field day and the school fair. I even challenged myself to play the piano accompaniment at the choir competition. The sound of the piano, which I had avoided for so long, was unexpectedly comforting, and I felt close to my mom.
Today at school.
I used to try not to think about my parents because it made me feel miserable, but gradually, I started reporting my school life to their portraits.
What were you talking to them about?
I knew Sean looked at me happily, but I still couldn't be honest with him. At 26, he barely worked. Didn't he feel ashamed? He's older than me, so he should get his act together already. I continued to disdain Sean and refused to talk to him directly. I won't become like Sean. This feeling drove me to go to college. I managed to cover the college expenses with scholarships, grants, and part-time jobs.
You don't need to cook for me anymore. I'll just grab something in the morning, and I'll have staff meals during my part-time job at night.
All right. But make sure you eat properly.
Seeing the slightly lonely look on Sean's face, I quickly looked away. College life was incredibly busy with both my studies and my part-time job, but compared to my middle school days, I was much more active and lively.
I've secured a job with an IT company in Massachusetts. I'm moving tomorrow.
The day after my college graduation, I went to see Mrs. Martin. Alyssa, you've done so well. You look wonderful now. Mrs. Martin's eyes were glistening with tears. By the way, have you had a proper talk with Sean? No. I hadn't had a real conversation with Sean in over 10 years, and I had decided that once I moved to Massachusetts, I would never return to the home where Sean waited. I see. I will always support you. Let's both do our best. Saying this, Mrs. Martin extended her hand. I grasped it firmly. Just like back then, Mrs. Martin's warm hand gave me the courage to live alone from now on. After starting my life alone in Massachusetts, as planned, I never returned to the home where Sean waited. Occasionally, Sean would text me asking if I was eating properly, but I only replied briefly, and eventually, the messages became less frequent. Still, every year on our parents' death anniversary,
Come back and update Dad and Mom on your life.
he would always message. But I was determined not to face Sean and stubbornly refused each time. One day, after coming home from work, I checked my mailbox and found an invitation to my middle school reunion. It was also going to be a retirement party for Mrs. Martin. How nostalgic. I was undeniably where I was now thanks to Mrs. Martin. I wanted her to see who I had become and to thank her, so I decided to attend the reunion. At the reunion, even though 10 years had passed since middle school graduation, it was comforting to see that everyone was pretty much the same.
I left my comic books hidden in the attic. I wonder what's happened to them?
As we chatted, a familiar voice came from behind. You left what in the attic? Turning around, there stood Mrs. Martin with a big smile on her face. Everyone took turns talking to Mrs. Martin. Seeing her profile, I thought she had a few more wrinkles, but her dignified demeanor was just as it was 10 years ago. Wanting to talk more, I waited for Mrs. Martin to be alone. After a while, Mrs. Martin looked around and, spotting me, waved and walked over.
Mrs. Martin, it's been a while. I'm doing well in Massachusetts.
Alyssa, you're shining. I'm relieved. Mrs. Martin squinted her eyes in a warm smile. When I expressed my gratitude to Mrs. Martin, she seemed to remember something, reached into her bag, and handed me a carefully wrapped package. Take a look after the reunion. With a smile, Mrs. Martin moved on to another former student. The package was quite heavy.
What could be inside?
With no idea what it could be, I was curious the whole time. So after the reunion, I went straight to the hotel where I was staying. I had booked a hotel for that night since I had no intention of going back to the house where Sean was. I opened the package cautiously. Inside, there were many envelopes labeled to the middle school teachers. The handwriting looked familiar. Looking at the back, the sender was none other than Sean. In the letter, Sean wrote about his worries regarding my behavior at home, how I was hanging out with delinquents, and how he was concerned that I might have feelings of disgust living with him, considering he's not my real brother. He was worried because he wasn't my biological brother, so he kept a safe distance in his interactions with me. I bit my lip hard. He also wrote that he would somehow manage to cover my tuition fees, and he detailed my strengths and weaknesses. He used to help me with my homework all the time.
Seriously, do the teachers really need to know that I can only memorize 6 new characters a day?
I couldn't help but laugh. Then, one line in a letter caught my eye.
Alyssa loved playing the piano with Mom. I hope one day I'll be able to hear her bird-like playing again.
Mrs. Martin read this.
My face was a mess with tears before I even realized it. To not leave me alone, Sean declined a job offer he had already secured. Because I wasn't going to school, Sean stayed home during the day, worried about me. And to cover my high school tuition, he worked a part-time job at night, waiting until I was asleep. I didn't understand anything about Sean. Despite my terrible attitude and the fact that we weren't even related by blood, Sean never abandoned me.
Sean, I'm sorry.
The person I am today is undeniably thanks to Sean. Tears flowed endlessly.
I need to apologize as soon as possible.
I waited for the morning to come, crying. Finally, as the sky began to brighten, I got ready and rushed out of the hotel. Of course, I headed straight to Sean's house. The house I hadn't seen in 3 years hadn't changed at all. The cactus I had been growing at the entrance had gotten a bit bigger.
Sean, you took good care of it.
I felt like crying but held back. I needed to say what I had to say before I could let myself cry. I steeled myself and pressed the doorbell.
Yes. Just a moment. Oh. Alyssa.
Sean, with a bit of a tan and some more muscle, came out of the door.
Oh, good. Good morning.
I had so much to say, but seeing Sean made me speechless and flustered. Seeing me like this, Sean smiled gently.
Welcome home. You haven't had breakfast yet, right? Let's eat together.
Yeah.
Sean was still the same kind and gentle Sean. While we ate breakfast, Sean told me how, with the help of acquaintances, he had started farming after I left and was now growing 6 types of vegetables.
You said you were interested in farming.
You remember well. If I had stayed in my office job, I never would have had this chance. I have a life I can be proud of.
He must have realized that I had come to apologize for making him sacrifice his life. I needed to tell this endlessly kind Sean how I felt. I took a sip of tea and straightened my back.
Sean, I'm really sorry for everything. I shut myself off and treated you terribly. I'm here today because you never gave up on me. Even though we're not related by blood, thank you so much.
I started sobbing midway, but somehow managed to get my message across. Sean patted my head with his big hand.
The carrots and radishes in the soup are good, aren't they?
Yeah.
Our vegetables are a hit with the kids too.
When I asked, Sean told me that he gives away the imperfect vegetables he grows to the local food bank for free.
When Dad and Mom passed away, I promised myself that I would never let you go hungry. Eating is the most important thing in life. When you're full, you naturally smile.
I see. That's why he always cooks and says, eat something. Sean's food bank work comes from that same sentiment. I'm sorry I never noticed how you felt, Sean.
I felt tears welling up again. Sean poked my cheek.
Fill your stomach and you'll smile. Let's go get burgers for lunch.
Yeah.
The burger shop Sean mentioned, it must be where we first met.
Let's start over from there.
I made up my mind. I had to work the next day, so I returned to Massachusetts that day. But 3 months later, I was back at my family's home.
Are you sure about this?
It's fine. Sean, this is the 4th time you've asked.
Actually, I had quit my job at the IT company and moved back to the family home where Sean lived. Sean kept worrying about my decision. I realized that the most important thing I wanted to do now was to reclaim the lost 13 years with Sean. Cody and Miranda might laugh and say, "Now? Really?" But I wanted to make many new memories with my precious family, Sean.
What should I do?
Well, for starters, let's have you take care of her own cactus.
Is that all? I'm a grown-up now, I can do anything. Lean on me more.
Sean still treated me like a kid. Our laughter echoed high into the sky. The sky on the day of my mom Caddy's funeral was calm and clear. I thought I could see Mom off in peace, but then I ran into the woman who wrecked my life before. But this time, it will be different. I've learned from my mistakes. It won't go like it did last time. Just watch and see. I'm Rothy, 30 years old. Dad passed away when I was young, and it's been just me and Mom ever since. I always tried to be cheerful so Mom wouldn't worry about me. But single mother households face a lot of struggles. There were tough times. But my best friend was my rock. That friend is Cindy. Cindy and I are the same age, and she also grew up in a single mother household. Because of our similar situations, we've been supporting each other since middle school. Cindy is really a good person. If only she didn't have a bad habit. Cindy loves to steal other people's crushes. If I said, "That guy is really cute," she'd say, "Rothy, do you like him too? Maybe I should confess to him. It's not like you're dating him, right?" That was still bearable. After all, we weren't even dating yet. Cindy has always been the girly type that boys found attractive. If Cindy made a move, I would back off. Since middle school, whenever I liked someone, Cindy would like them too, and she would always end up dating them. But even I had a boyfriend when I was in high school. Sullivan, who was a year older, confessed to me. I kept this a secret from Cindy. There was no deep reason for not telling my best friend. I was just embarrassed. But she found out soon enough. "Oh. Really? I thought you didn't have anyone you liked since you hadn't mentioned it." I was just embarrassed. But now we can both walk home with our boyfriends. "Yeah, that's right," Cindy said with a smile. But soon, I found out the reason behind her smile. Every time Sullivan and I would walk home together, Cindy would join us. "Hey, isn't your boyfriend walking home with you? He has something to do. So, can I join you guys? I don't mean to intrude. I just want to be friends with Sullivan too." She would tag along wherever we went. One day, Sullivan called me out. "Rothy, I'm sorry. I'm going to date Cindy." "What?" "I'm really sorry. I thought of her as a friend, but I started feeling more for Cindy." Cindy also said, "Rothy, I'm sorry. I can't stop these feelings. If you could just forgive us, we could be happy." She pleaded with a tearful face. Even though I was shocked, if they both felt that way, I was just in the way. So, with tears in my eyes, I said, "Okay." And I forgave them. After that, only Cindy continued to treat me the same. I also tried to act normal around her. After graduating high school, Cindy got a job and I went to a distant college, so we grew apart. I unexpectedly met Cindy again about 2 years after I graduated from college and started working. At that time, I was engaged. My partner is a friend from college, who currently works at a trading company. I had brought my fiancé, Polly, to introduce him to Mom. After finishing our visit, we decided to take a break at a cafe, where we unexpectedly ran into Cindy. At first, I didn't notice her, but she called out to me. "Hey, Rothy! Long time no see. You haven't changed at all." "Cindy? Oh, long time no see. How have you been? You never contacted me after you went to college. I missed you." Sorry. I was really busy with everything after college." "I see. Well, I guess it can't be helped. So, who's this?" "Oh, let me introduce you. This is my fiancé, Polly. We came to see my mom today." "What? You're getting married? That's so soon. You just started working, didn't you?" "But we've been together since college, and I can continue working even after we get married. So we thought, why not now?" "I see." Cindy, while saying this, scrutinized Polly closely. She had a much more feminine aura than she did in high school. It seemed she knew exactly how to present herself attractively. She asked Polly, looking up at him, "What kind of work do you do?" If you're getting married, you must have a stable job with a good income, right? Polly responded. I'm just in sales. But the company is listed on the stock exchange and is pretty well known. He handed over his business card. Is that so? I had a feeling you were an elite just from looking at you. You're also really good looking, Cindy said, making a big show of talking to Polly. Listening to their conversation, as if I wasn't there, I felt a sense of déjà vu. That's right. Cindy always used to steal my crushes. This could be bad. So I said, shall we get going? Prompting Polly to leave. He replied, yeah, let's. And began getting ready to leave. Oh, already? That's too bad, Cindy said. Make sure to invite me to the wedding, she added, which put my mind at ease. But a few days later, my doorbell rang. When I answered, there was Cindy. Apparently, she had contacted my family and gotten my address from Mom. We used to be close, so Mom probably gave it to her without thinking twice. I came. I happened to have some business nearby, and I didn't get to properly celebrate the other day, she said, looking around my room. Is this room just for you, Rothy? Are you moving out when you get married? Yes, but... So, an apartment? That's the plan. I see. I looked up Polly's company. The sales department there has an average annual income of around $80,000, right? That's amazing. I wish I could live in a nice apartment with a high-earning husband. Feeling a bit uncomfortable, I tried to change the subject. So, how about you, Cindy? Any plans for marriage? Are you seeing anyone right now? I am, but his salary isn't that great. Our conversation wasn't matching up. I wasn't asking about his salary. But you're lucky, Rothy. Your fiancé makes $80,000 a year, so you'll have an easy life. I'm not choosing my partner based on income. At that moment, Polly called, so we decided to have dinner together with Cindy. How did it come to this? Looking back, Cindy always has a way of maneuvering things to her advantage. By the time you realize it, it's already too late. As it once was, Cindy never misses what she aims for. Especially if it belongs to her best friend. A few months later, Polly suddenly said this to me. Rothy, I'm sorry. I can't marry you.
What? What do you mean?
I'm really sorry. I didn't want to say this, but I'm marrying Cindy.
What? Since when have you two been involved?
When Cindy came over and we had dinner together, remember? She said she wanted to surprise you at the wedding, so we exchanged contact info. We met several times for planning, and once, she got drunk and ended up at a hotel. Since then, I'm really sorry.
It was just a mistake, right? You don't love me anymore.
I'm sorry. I do love you, Rothy. But Cindy is pregnant with my child.
What?
I felt the blood drain from my face. Are you really sorry? We've been planning this wedding.
I'll cover all the cancellation fees, of course.
I was such a fool. I should have thrown water at Cindy and run when I saw her. But Cindy, with her audacity, came to my apartment. I didn't want to see her. Rothy, I'm sorry. I really fell in love. And I'm pregnant. Please forgive me, she said, with tears streaming down her face. I was the one who wanted to cry.
I don't want to see you anymore. Don't come here again.
That's all I could manage to say. The only solace I found in my sadness was my work. I had always planned to keep working after getting married, but after the affair, I immersed myself in it even more. 5 years flew by in a blur. Focusing on my career didn't delay my chances of marriage. I got married 2 years ago. My partner is Bert, the legal advisor at my company. I was in charge of general affairs and I frequently interacted with the legal advisor. He noticed my hard work, and after a few dinners, he confessed his feelings, and we got married. Married life is joyful, and my career is still going well. I no longer care about what happened 5 years ago. But not everything was perfect. Mom, who enjoyed working and being alone at home, was diagnosed with terminal cancer. It was too late for treatment. I cried my heart out, but Mom smiled. "I was happy to have you in my life. Thank you. I want to spend my last days surrounded by family," and said. So I spent as much time as possible at home, taking care of Mom until the end. Today is Mom's funeral. But I couldn't believe my eyes. Cindy was among the attendees. "Why are you here?" "Well, Rothy, I heard your mom passed away. She used to be so kind to me, so I wanted to pay my respects," she said with a smile. Then, I saw her eyes gleam. She was looking at my husband standing next to me. She must have known something. And came here with a clear purpose. "Oh, is this your husband? Rothy, you got married?" "Yes. This is my husband, Bert. How are things with Polly?" "Oh, we're breaking up." "What? But your child must be around 4 years old now." "Oh, well, I wasn't really pregnant. I just thought I was." "What?" "I was really upset then too. I thought I was pregnant. Anyway, it's all in the past now. So, I'm single," she said, staring at my husband. "What does Bert do?" There she goes again. There seem to be quite a few women in the world who have a habit of stealing others' partners. However, it seems that only the woman in front of me would try to steal from the same person twice. And this time, it's not just a fiancé. It's my spouse. But I'm not foolish either. I'm going to confront her. "Bert is a lawyer," I answered. Cindy wouldn't be able to resist hearing that he is a lawyer. "What? A lawyer means he's got to have a high income, right? That's great." She still seems to be concerned about the salary. There are many lawyers with low incomes out there, but that thought doesn't occur to her. I replied, "Not as much as you'd think. Plus, the job is busy with all the procedures and stuff." While saying this, I looked to Bert for agreement. "It may sound good, but it's not an easy job. But if he's a lawyer, he must be secure. By the way, is Rothy still working?" "Of course. I love my job," I replied. "Oh, really? What about you, Cindy?" "I'm working temp jobs, but the pay is tough. It's hard being single. I wish I could find someone good." She said this while looking at Bert. I thought this was the start, so I said, "Well, I need to greet the other guests." And I broke off the conversation with Cindy, saying to Bert, "Sorry, but can you handle this?" And I stepped away for a moment. I greeted the neighbors and coworkers who had helped Mom. When I glanced over at Bert, sure enough, Cindy was still there. As expected of the queen of theft. She never misses what she targets. Even if it's someone's husband. Although it bothered me, I had duties to attend to. After a while, Cindy came over to me. "Finished greeting everyone?" I got Bert's business card and looked him up. He works at a big firm. So, his annual salary is around $200,000? That's amazing. And so what? I said, pretending not to care. Sorry if I steal him again. Cindy laughed. What? Steal what? I asked, knowing but wanting to confirm. Of course, your husband with the $200,000 salary. Really, Rothy, you have such luck. You always find great partners. Being around you, I get all the good men. Every man becomes enchanted with my charm, she said triumphantly. So that's why she came to the funeral. I looked her straight in the eye and said, Well, I don't think Bert will ever betray me. Humph. Then I'll take him from you. She smiled victoriously and went back to Bert. I watched as she immediately started touching him. Then she suddenly started crying. This seemed to unsettle Bert a bit. I heard later that she had started crying, saying, I'm sad that Rothy's mom passed away. I feel sorry for Rothy. It seems that she started crying over something like that. Cindy knew how to use tears to win over men. But don't worry. It won't work on Bert. I had a feeling it might, but my husband is different. I had told Bert everything about Cindy's attempts to steal. When we talked about marriage, I was open about my not-so-great past experiences. If it didn't work out, then it wasn't meant to be. Bert had already realized that he was the target. Some men might fall into Cindy's trap, even knowing it's not right. But Bert is different. Still, I felt sorry for Bert, being pestered by such an annoying woman, so I went to help. Bert looked relieved when he saw me. And when I asked Cindy, Did you enjoy the conversation? She looked frustrated. She must have realized that Bert wasn't interested in her. She can't have everything your way. Then Bert, tired of the situation, said honestly, Oh, Rothy is here, so I don't have to entertain you anymore, right? Yeah, good job. What? Not entertaining me. That's kind of rude, isn't it? Cindy said. I'm sorry. I know it's rude, but I just can't take it. Cindy, your smell is a bit too strong. I don't know if it's perfume or makeup, but since you keep touching me, the smell is rubbing off on me and it's making me feel sick. Bert's voice naturally got louder because he was so disgusted, and it seemed others could hear. Even though it was a funeral, there were people laughing. Covering his nose, Bert continued. Cindy, do you know how to apply perfume correctly? Just a little is enough. But you smell like you dumped the whole bottle over your head. Actually, Bert is a lawyer, so he seems nice at first, but he's quite sharp-tongued. I tolerated it because you're Rothy's friend, but I've reached my limit. I burst into laughter when I heard this. People who had been secretly listening also burst into laughter. Cindy looked around nervously, as if to say, what the heck? He has a sensitive sense of smell. Perfume is fine in moderation, but he can't stand strong scents. Huh? Cindy, you're wearing a scent that's not suitable for a funeral, and your makeup is too heavy. What are you talking about? Looking good is part of being a woman. Huh? This is a place to send off the deceased, not to go manhunting. Wearing such strong perfume here is the real breach of etiquette. How dare you? You can say that because you snagged yourself a high-earning husband and are all set. Look, I'm not choosing my partner based on salary. And if you think you can win over every man, you're just full of yourself. My husband would never betray me. Why not? Bert likes a type that's the exact opposite of you. Huh? Well, sure, Rothy seems like a plain type we'd see anywhere. Unlike me, who has a woman's charm, right? She's incredibly rude. Thanks, but yes, I may look plain, but I'm a career woman. My husband likes serious, hardworking types. You, who are satisfied with a temporary job just to get married quickly, are not his type at all. In fact, he probably dislikes you. Bert nodded next to me, agreeing. What did you say? Cindy had always managed to attract men solely with her looks, but Bert was different. He looked beyond the surface and appreciated the inner qualities of a person. It was because of this depth in Bert that I found the courage to take the step towards marriage. Therefore, I was confident that Cindy wouldn't be able to take him away from me. But seriously, Cindy, today is my mom's important funeral. If you don't intend to properly see her off, then please leave. With those words, Cindy bit her nails in frustration and left. After that, Mom's funeral proceeded smoothly, and we were able to send her off peacefully. There were a few minor issues, but I'm glad it ended without any major problems. Maybe it was thanks to Mom that I managed to get some sort of revenge on Cindy today. Perhaps she called Cindy here so that I could reaffirm my current happiness and let go of the past. Thank you, Mom. Later, something unexpected came to light. Apparently, Cindy was being sued for a significant amount of alimony by her ex-husband. Her ex-husband was, in fact, my former fiancé, and a mutual acquaintance shared his story with me. The pregnancy that had prompted the marriage turned out to be a lie fabricated by Cindy. She had made me believe it was a misunderstanding, but at the time, she had shown fake ultrasound pictures to convince him, later claiming she had miscarried. Moreover, the discovery of this lie was triggered by Cindy's infidelity. Since she was supposed to be pregnant at the beginning of the marriage, her ex-husband refrained from traveling or going on long trips to be considerate of her condition. He was a kind man, after all. But this consideration was unexpected for Cindy. Feeling bored, Cindy began an affair with someone else. She then claimed to have miscarried and used her supposed grief as an excuse to splurge on luxury items with her husband's credit card. Her husband, feeling sorry for her, overlooked these expenses. But it was all part of Cindy's deception, even buying luxury items for her lover. Her excessive spending habits raised suspicions in her husband, who installed cameras to gather evidence of her infidelity. During conversations with her lover, it was revealed that her pregnancy was a lie, deeply hurting her husband. As a result, he is suing her for compensation. Thus, Cindy was looking for someone who could lavish her with enough money to nullify the alimony claim and set her sights on Bert. But tough luck for her. Bert loved me for the hard-working woman I am and has no interest in Cindy, who is now obsessed with money. In the end, Cindy was heavily sued and ended up getting divorced. Now, she lives in a cramped apartment, working temp jobs by day and at a club by night, struggling with debt. She used to buy luxury items and enjoy her time with her lover, but now she's paying the price for her actions. It's a lonely end for someone who tried to steal another's happiness. I hope she finds a wealthy man someday. As for me, I continue to enjoy my work. My husband supports me, often cooking delicious meals and helping with household chores. And we enjoy a harmonious life together. We're expecting a child, but I intend to keep working even after giving birth. I know my husband will continue to support me.
Where are you? It's an urgent work matter. Don't call me back. My husband, Matthew, abruptly hung up, cutting me off. I let out a deep sigh in the parking lot of the soccer stadium. Right before me was a familiar car. The make, the stickers, it was undeniably his car. If it was such an urgent job, why was he at a soccer stadium? A sense of unease spread through my chest. I had to find out. As I made my way to the stands, there they were. Matthew, an unfamiliar woman, and a young child. They were seated together, eagerly cheering for the game. Their image was displayed on the big screen for all to see. I quietly approached and sat in the seat right next to them. Thanks for saving me a spot. This is such a great view. His face twisted in shock as he turned to look at me. But this was only the beginning. My name is Sarah. I've been married to Matthew for 10 years. We have a son, Ryan, and a daughter, Emma, who is 3 years younger. Our days were busy, but filled with happiness. However, those blissful days started to change little by little. I first met Matthew during our university days. He was kind to everyone and incredibly thoughtful. It was only a matter of time before I fell for him. We started dating, and our relationship naturally led to marriage. In the beginning, everything was fresh and exciting. I felt like I was at the peak of happiness. But things began to shift when our son, Ryan, was born. Shortly after his birth, Matthew was assigned to work away from home. What should we do? Ryan is still so little. Should we all move together? Sarah, you have your job, and staying here means you'll have plenty of support. For now, I'll go by myself. I'll come back on weekends, so don't worry. He was right. Being close to my parents made raising Ryan much easier, so I decided to stay, managing life with just Ryan and me. With Matthew away during the week, I had to handle everything on my own, commuting to work, dropping Ryan off and picking him up from daycare, and juggling housework and parenting in the evenings. At first, I was overwhelmed, but with help from my mom and friends, I managed to get by. Weekends were the highlight of my week when Matthew returned home, and we could spend time as a family. Ryan adored his dad, rushing to the door to greet him the moment he arrived. Ryan, how have you been? Great, really great. Seeing their interactions reminded me that having our family together was the best thing. However, after Emma was born, life became even more demanding. On top of caring for Ryan, there was Emma to look after, along with my job. Balancing all three was far from easy. Sarah, you've been looking tired lately, haven't you? Sometimes, when Matthew came home on the weekends, he would show concern like that. But over time, his concern began to feel superficial. I am tired, but it's not like I can just give up. I have no choice but to handle everything myself, I replied with a hint of sarcasm, and he only gave a wry smile. I'll help out on the weekends, so don't overdo it. Weekends aren't enough. Perhaps startled by my raised voice, he didn't say anything more. By the time Ryan turned 9 and joined a soccer team, my life had become even more hectic. Weekends were spent taking Ryan to practices or games and cheering alongside Emma. Afterward, we'd usually go out to eat before heading home. Mom, we won again today. That's amazing, Ryan. Great job. Ryan's growth and achievements became my biggest support. Meanwhile, Matthew's routine of only coming home on weekends remained unchanged. He was barely involved in the finer aspects of family life. I wanted to talk to you about something related to Ryan's school. Sorry, I've had a week full of overtime. Could you let me rest for a bit? Sure, but lately, I can't tell if you come home to see us or just to sleep. My words, laced with bitterness, left him with nothing but a troubled expression. Even when he was home, he wasn't much help. During the weekdays when he was away, I had grown accustomed to managing everything on my own with Ryan and Emma. In fact, I found life surprisingly comfortable. I could handle things at my own pace, and I genuinely enjoyed my work. On the contrary, when he came home on weekends, I often felt a bit stifled. Sarah, where's my shirt? Find it yourself. I'm busy too. Even small interactions like this started to feel bothersome. My friend said, "Give me some space." And honestly, I think that's what I need too. When I shared this with Mom, she gave me a wry smile and said, "Maybe it's because Matthew isn't around that you're able to make time for yourself." And she was right. For me, the time when he wasn't home had become precious not just for managing chores and parenting, but for having control over my life. Still, it wasn't as if the four of us had stopped spending time together entirely. There were moments when he would come to watch Ryan's soccer games, and we'd go out to eat as a family. "Matthew, can you come to the next game?" "Yay, I'll try to make it." But the dissatisfaction brewing in my heart grew a little more each day. The day he promised to come watch Ryan's soccer game, I left the house early with Ryan and Emma and headed to the venue. "Give it your all today, okay? Dad's definitely looking forward to this." "Yay, I'm going to win, so watch me." When we arrived at the venue, the game began, but as the match neared its end, there was still no sign of Matthew. Seeing Ryan occasionally glance at the stands in search of his dad made my heart ache. After the game, despite the team's victory, Ryan seemed downcast. "Ryan, you were amazing today." I was so moved. But Dad didn't come. I couldn't bring myself to say anything in response. On the way home, holding Emma in my arms and walking hand in hand with Ryan, I felt something inside me crumble. When we got home, Matthew was lying on the couch in the living room, watching TV. "Matthew, what happened to the game? You said you'd come." "Sorry, I was just so tired. I'll definitely go next time." Next time. Do you even understand how much Ryan was looking forward to this? Matthew kept making excuses, and my frustration only grew. Still, as a mom, I had to keep going. So the next morning, I started another busy day as usual. But facing him became increasingly tiresome, and I couldn't shake the sense of distance growing between us. Life was supposed to be busy, yet happy. I wondered if I would ever rediscover the meaning of those words. With those thoughts lingering, I kept moving forward for the sake of our family. As time passed, Ryan entered 8th grade, and Emma was in 5th grade. Though life remained busy, the joy of watching my kids grow made me feel more fulfilled as a mom. Matthew, on the other hand, continued to operate at his own pace. Where he once came home every weekend, his visits stretched to every 2 or 3 weeks. By this point, I stopped caring about when he would come home. One day, Emma casually said something that stirred a small ripple in our family life. "Hey, Mom, why don't we surprise Dad for his birthday?" "A surprise?" "Yeah. He's not going to come home anyway, right? We could make it a trip too." "A trip? That might not be a bad idea." I wasn't the only one who agreed with Emma's idea. "That sounds great." Ryan chimed in, and the two of them immediately began planning. Wanting to make this happen for my kids, I decided to check Matthew's schedule. "Matthew, what's your plan for this weekend? Are you busy with work?" "No, I'm off this weekend." "Why?" "Oh, nothing. I was just curious." Without giving him a reason, I ended the call. This made the plan for surprising Matthew on his birthday feel more real. As we worked out the details, the kids chatted excitedly. On the day, "Let's go by ourselves without telling Dad." "That's a great idea." "Mom, you can wait in the car." "Fine, do as you like." With that decided, I booked accommodations near Matthew's apartment. We planned to stay there the night before and finalize the details of the surprise that evening. The kids were full of laughter, brainstorming how they would catch Matthew off guard. Even though they were at an age where they could be difficult, I found myself thinking how adorable they still were. On the day of the surprise, Emma and Ryan were already bustling around, breaking the morning calm. "Ryan, can you make sure to say happy birthday properly?" "Of course I can." "But Emma, I bet you'll be so nervous you won't say anything." "That's not true. I even have a present to give him." Emma held a small box tightly in her hand, a gift she had chosen for her dad. Ryan, on the other hand, had a handmade card with a heartfelt message he had written himself. Both of them wore expressions filled with a mix of nerves and excitement, their hopes clearly growing inside them. Do you both have everything? Double check. Okay. Yep. We're all set. Mom, make sure you wait for us while we're gone. Okay. Of course. I'll stay in the car and wait, so take your time and have fun. Hearing this, they exchanged smiles. As planned, I parked in the lot across from Matthew's apartment and stayed in the car, watching the kids walk toward the building. Their backs were full of anticipation, and I couldn't help but smile as I watched them go. See you soon. All right, have fun. But after they left to meet Matthew, I found myself witnessing something completely unexpected. From the car, I had a clear view of Matthew from the apartment. I saw him step out, and before I could process what was happening, he pulled his smartphone out of his pocket and started checking something. Moments later, a car pulled up. It was a vehicle clearly designed to appeal to women. A bright pastel-colored body with cute stickers on the windows. The passenger door opened, and without any hesitation, Matthew got in. My chest tightened. What is this? Whose car is that? A wave of unease swept over me. I thought about confronting him right then and there, but the possibility of the kids returning stopped me. I instantly decided that this was not something they should witness, and all I could do was watch as the car carrying Matthew drove away. Afterward, Ryan and Emma returned from the apartment. Their steps were heavy, and their disappointment was painfully clear. Mom, Dad wasn't there. We came all this way for nothing. Exactly. We got ready so early this morning for this. I see. I tried my best to hide my own unease. Emma clutched the gift in her hand tightly, her head lowered. Ryan, too, looked frustrated and let out a small sigh. Seeing them like this made my heart ache. I wanted to say something to comfort them, but I was confused myself, not knowing where Matthew had gone. Listen, you two, the day's not over yet. It's still a holiday, so let's not be sad. Why don't we go watch a soccer match? Soccer. When I saw a slight spark of interest in Ryan's eyes, I felt a tiny surge of relief. That's right. You've been wanting to see that team play for a while, haven't you? Surprise, I got us tickets. Really? Mom, you're the best, thanks. Ryan's excitement eased some of my tension, though Emma still looked unsettled. Soccer's nice and all, but do you think Dad will really come back home? I'm sure he will. Maybe work's just been keeping him busy. I guess so. Yeah, maybe. Mom, let's go already. Both Emma and Ryan seemed to cheer up a little as they climbed into the car. As I drove, I kept glancing at their reflections in the rearview mirror. Ryan gradually brightened, and Emma began smiling faintly in response to his mood. I resolved to make this day as enjoyable as possible for them, even if only during the match. That was the only thing I could do for them now, I told myself. Yet my mind remained clouded with the earlier scene I had witnessed. Matthew getting into that car, the distinct design of the vehicle. Was it just a work associate, or something else? I was torn between wanting to know and fearing the answer. It felt like the weight of a harsh truth was pressing down on me. As we drove to the stadium, Ryan stared out the window and murmured, "Still, where could Dad have gone? He hasn't been coming home lately. Does he even care about us anymore?" Of course, he does. He's probably just busy. He always says how hard his job is, right? Maybe he's working today too. Emma chimed in, trying to reassure him. Her words, meant to encourage Ryan, only felt more painful to me. After all, I, too, doubted if Matthew's absence was truly due to work. That's right, I said, forcing a smile. Dad has his own things to deal with. Let's focus on enjoying the soccer match today, okay? I tried to force my voice to sound cheerful, but even I could tell it lacked any real conviction. The two of them nodded at my words, but their expressions remained awkward and uncertain. An uneasy silence filled the car. What if my worst fears were true? Every time that thought crossed my mind, a surge of anger welled up from deep within me. We eventually arrived at the venue, and as I searched for a parking spot, one car caught my eye. The make, the color of the body, and the stickers on the windows. It was unmistakable. It was the same car he had gotten into earlier. The image of him climbing into the passenger seat flashed vividly in my mind. There it is. What is it? Nothing. It's nothing. My chest tightened, and my mind went blank. My hands trembled, and I could feel my heart racing as I parked the car. Almost instinctively, I grabbed my smartphone and dialed Matthew's number. As the ringtone echoed, I realized my grip on the steering wheel had tightened to the point where my knuckles turned white. When the ringing stopped, he threw the line. What is it? I'm busy right now. Where are you? Where exactly are you? I'm at work. It's an important project, so let's talk later. Work? Really? You told me you had the day off. I couldn't hide the suspicion in my voice. Matthew seemed to sense it in that brief pause, and he responded in a clearly irritated tone. Are you accusing me of something? It's an emergency job. Don't call me again. With that, he abruptly ended the call. The sound of the disconnected line lingered in my ears as I stared at my smartphone in disbelief. My hands were still trembling, and I felt cold sweat trickling down my back. In the silence that followed, a distant sound reached my ears, cheers and chants. I rolled down the window slightly and felt the energy of the nearby stadium seep into the car. The unmistakable excitement of a soccer match crowd heightened my sense of distrust. Matthew's claim of being at an emergency work meeting felt hollow, almost laughable, against the backdrop of that noise. Unbelievable. The word escaped my lips, laced with a level of anger that even surprised me. The suspicion that Matthew was lying was now solidifying into certainty, but I couldn't let my emotions erupt here. The kids were waiting. No matter what, I couldn't lose my composure in front of them. As I stepped out of the car, Emma looked up at me with concern. Mom, are you okay? You seem kind of off. Ryan glanced over as well, tilting his head slightly. Do you think Dad's at the game too? Oh well. Dad said he was busy, so I don't think he could make it today. I forced myself to sound calm as I responded, but inside, anger and doubt were swirling uncontrollably. Unsure of what else to do, I decided to stay silent and lead the two of them to the stands. My steps were heavy, weighed down by the growing anger toward Matthew. As the cheers and chanting from the stadium drew closer, I bit my lip and tried to steady myself. There was a chance I might spot Matthew in the crowd. That thought refused to leave my mind. The stands were brimming with energy when we arrived. We found empty seats and sat down, pretending to watch the game, while I scanned the crowd for him. The kids, thankfully, were absorbed in the game, but my own heart was restless, my pulse quickening. Then, suddenly, I froze at what I saw on the central screen. There he was, Matthew, sitting with an unfamiliar woman and a child beside her. They looked like a perfect little family. The three of them were smiling and cheering enthusiastically, their happiness displayed vividly on the screen. So this is what he meant by an emergency job, huh? I bit my lip, struggling to keep my emotions in check. Next to me, Ryan and Emma had noticed the screen too. They sat frozen in shock. Mom, isn't that Dad? Ryan whispered. Who's that woman? And the kid? Why's he with them? Emma asked. her voice trembling. Their distress was palpable, but I had no choice but to stay composed. If I let my emotions take over now, it would only deepen their hurt. Focus on the game, I said firmly. We'll talk about this later. But, with that, they fell silent, turning their attention back to the game, though their confusion lingered in their eyes. Inside me, however, a storm was raging. Matthew wasn't seated far from us, close enough that I could clearly make him out with my own eyes. I could see him laughing and chatting with a woman, his expression carefree and warm. The sight ignited a burning anger deep within me, consuming every other thought. Throughout the game, my mind was elsewhere, consumed by one question: what truth lay behind Matthew's actions? The match unfolding before me faded into the background, overshadowed by the betrayal I could feel sinking into my chest. As I quietly strategized how to confront Matthew, I resolved what needed to be done. The moment the woman and child left their seats, I made my decision. It was time to tell Ryan and Emma the truth. I couldn't keep hiding Matthew's lies from them any longer, nor did I want to. Turning to them, I began speaking in as calm a voice as I could muster. I didn't want to hurt them, but there was no way to avoid it now. Emma, Ryan, I need you to listen carefully. You saw Dad on the screen earlier, right? He was with another woman and her child. Yeah, I saw him. Who were they? Why was he with them? Their eyes widened in shock, confusion clouding their faces. After a brief pause, I continued, carefully choosing my words. Dad, he's doing something he can't tell us about. He's been lying to our family and spending time with that woman. What do you mean? Something he can't tell us? It means that he's seeing someone else, someone he might love. No way. Emma, still young, struggled to process the revelation. Ryan, however, grasped the meaning almost immediately. I don't want to believe it either, I admitted, but that's why I'm going to confront Dad directly. I need to hear it from him. Of course, I'll make sure he doesn't try to escape, Ryan said firmly. Me too, Emma added. I want to ask him myself. Feeling their determination, I turned and began walking toward where Matthew was seated. Matthew was watching the game, but his occasional glances around hinted that he was on edge. The seats beside him had bags placed on them, clearly marking where the woman and child had been sitting earlier. I strode confidently to his row and sat down right next to him. This match, we've really been looking forward to it, haven't we? Thanks for saving us such good seats. It's a great spot to watch from, I said, my tone dripping with pointed sarcasm. Matthew turned to me, startled, his eyes wide with panic. What, Sarah? What are you doing here? Hello there. His awkward, flustered demeanor was almost laughable. Without a word, I raised my hand and pointed toward the far section of the stands. Emma and Ryan were sitting there, glaring at him from a distance. Wait, Sarah, what's going on? Why are you here? Why shouldn't I be? Who are these seats for, Matthew? Well, you're misunderstanding. It's not. I mean, there's a good explanation. Matthew stammered, scrambling for an excuse, but I wasn't interested in hearing it. Seeing his growing panic only fueled my anger. Misunderstanding? Really? What exactly am I misunderstanding, Matthew? I saw you getting into a car with a woman I don't know. I saw you laughing and cheering with her here. I've seen everything. Well, it's not what it looks like. Matthew couldn't respond. Then, perhaps noticing the attention from those around us, he grabbed my arm and, in a low voice, angrily shouted, "Why are you here? Take the kids and go home, now. Wasn't it supposed to be work for you, Matthew? Here you are, with a woman and a child. How about you explain what's really going on? Matthew's face was completely cornered. But just then, the woman returned. She was holding a boy, about 7 years old, who immediately ran over to Matthew, calling out, "Dad." At that moment, Emma, who had rushed over, asked in a low voice, "Dad, who's this kid?" Matthew's face briefly twisted in discomfort. He looked away, opening his mouth to speak, but quickly closed it again, unable to answer. "Answer me? We're a family, right? Why are you with someone else?" Ryan, who had caught up, also threw his questions at Matthew. Matthew seemed rattled by their pressure, his gaze darting around as he mumbled excuses. "It's not like that, Ryan. Just calm down, I'll explain. It's a misunderstanding." "What do you mean, misunderstanding?" Mom said she saw everything. "What's the difference?" Tears in her eyes, Emma looked at Matthew with piercing eyes, continuing to press him. Seeing them both so upset made my heart ache, but it also made my anger toward Matthew burn even stronger. "It's not a misunderstanding, is it? Stop lying, Matthew. Sarah, stop. Don't make a scene here." He tried to pull me away and force me to stand up, but Ryan shouted at him, "Dad, don't try to run away. You've betrayed us, right? Then explain yourself." All eyes in the area were on him, and he looked completely trapped. The woman behind him watched in uncertainty. He tried to explain something to her, but she clearly seemed confused and grabbed his arm, whispering something. Watching this interaction only fueled my anger even more. "Who are you? Are you an acquaintance? Could you just stay over there quietly?" The woman looked perplexed at my question but didn't respond, hiding behind Matthew. "Sarah, stop. This is bad." The surrounding crowd had fully focused on us, and murmurs spread through the area. I smiled and shook off Matthew's grip on my arm. "Fine, I'll get up, but let's talk properly, shall we? Emma and Ryan have a lot of questions for you." Matthew's face went pale, and he glared at me, eventually leading me behind the venue. The woman, child, Emma, and Ryan followed silently behind. Once we arrived behind the venue, Matthew began shouting at me in a low voice. "Hey, what are you thinking? Are you trying to embarrass me like this?" His words only made my anger boil over. I kept my composure but calmly met his gaze and responded, "Who's embarrassing who here? Maybe you should start taking responsibility for what you've done. Dad, tell me, why did that boy call you Dad? Is he your child?" At those words, Matthew's expression froze for a moment. "I need to know too. Maybe this isn't something to ask in front of the child, but I need you to be clear. Is he your child?" "No, that's not." Matthew started to speak but ended up saying nothing. Seeing this, Ryan stepped forward and glared at Matthew. "Dad, what's going on? You better explain yourself." Matthew, looking flustered, began to make excuses. "It's not like that. It's like a business thing." "Are you still lying? A business thing, watching soccer with some woman and child? What are you talking about? Does that look like a business thing? If you're going to lie, at least come up with a better story." Matthew seemed at a loss for words after that. Then Emma, her voice trembling with tears, continued, "Dad, we came here today to celebrate your birthday. Ryan and I even got presents, and we were really looking forward to it." Those words seemed to pierce Matthew, and his face twisted for a moment. However, Ryan, with a cold voice, pressed on. "But you know, maybe it doesn't even matter if Dad's here or not. After all, he's spending time with another family instead of us." Just as he opened his mouth to respond, the other woman, Jessica, spoke up. "Wait a second. I've been listening quietly, but what exactly are you talking about? She looked up at Matthew with confusion, grabbing his arm and whispering, "Matthew, who are these people? What's going on? Myself and these kids are Matthew's real family. Could you please explain why you're with us?" Jessica looked surprised at these words, then turned her gaze to Matthew. "Matthew, what's going on? You told me your family was falling apart and that you were getting a divorce. And you said you didn't have any kids." At those words, Emma and Ryan's faces darkened even more. "Don't have kids? So are we invisible to you? How low can you go?" Matthew desperately waved his hands, trying to explain something to Jessica. "No, it's not like that. It's a misunderstanding. Our family has been struggling lately, but we're still trying to work things out." "Work things out? When and with who? I've never heard of anything like that." Interrupting his words, I coldly retorted, "We've been together for 3 years. Was it all a lie? Did you deceive me?" My voice shook as I confronted Matthew. It seemed that he had been involved with this single mother for the past 3 years. Behind me, Ryan clenched his fists and, in a low voice, once again questioned Matthew. 3 years. Did you ever think about how we've been waiting for you, Dad? If Dad isn't going to tell the truth, then fine. You probably wanted to pretend we were never even part of your life from the start." Matthew, standing there, seemed to have no response. Before he could say anything, I quietly spoke. "It's over, Matthew. Don't ever involve us again." With those words, I took Emma and Ryan's hands and silently left the scene. There was no sound of anyone following us from behind. Only the sound of the children's sobs echoed, stabbing at my heart. At that moment, I caught sight of a group of people in the corner of my vision, holding up a banner with a message of support for the players. As soon as I saw the large fabric with encouraging words written for the players, an idea sparked in my mind. "Excuse me, could I borrow a little bit of this fabric? I'd like to write a special message." The people preparing the banner seemed a little surprised, but seeing the urgency on my face, they kindly agreed. They handed me a small portion of the fabric, and I took a pen in hand without hesitation and began writing on it. Then I returned to my seat, but when I saw Matthew calmly watching the game as if nothing had happened, my anger swelled up again. Had Jessica and the child already left, Matthew was happily enjoying the game by himself. "Ryan, Emma, stay here." "Okay." I walked over to Matthew for my final act of revenge. And then, "All right, let's get back to enjoying the game." I deliberately said it in a bright tone as I sat next to Matthew. "What were you doing? Didn't you leave?" "Oh, just a little something. I wanted to come for the final cheer." "The final cheer?" Matthew looked puzzled, but didn't say anything further. I gripped the banner tightly and waited for the right moment. Yes, it was halftime. Soon enough, as halftime arrived, the time came for the audience in the stands to be shown on the screen. The camera focused on the excited crowd, slowly projecting them onto the screen. I had been waiting for this moment. Finally, I unfurled the banner. In big, bold letters, it read, "May the cheating man's love be realized." At that moment, a murmur spread through the crowd. On the screen, Matthew and a banner were clearly visible. All eyes in the audience turned to Matthew, and voices grew louder and louder. Moreover, this game was being broadcasted on television. Matthew, on the screen, turned pale and froze, unable to move. "What are you doing? Stop it." Matthew hurriedly tried to grab my arm, but I calmly shook it off. "Oh, what's wrong? You should stand tall and proud since you're getting such a warm reception." As those words reached the audience, laughter began to leak out from various corners of the stands. The woman sitting next to me, a stranger, was also awkwardly aware of all the attention. Gradually, applause started rising from the stands. It was not the kind of applause meant for cheering. It felt more like applause for me. Surrounded by that sound, I turned to Matthew and said my final words. "Thanks for the cheer. I'm leaving now." With that, I placed the banner on Matthew's lap and headed back to the children. Emma and Ryan looked surprised by my actions for a moment, but without saying a word, they followed me out of the venue. On the way home, in the car, Emma said, "Mom, we don't need Dad anymore. We don't need someone like him. Mom, from now on, we'll support you." Their words tightened my chest, but at the same time, I felt a surge of courage to take the next step. "Thank you, Emma, Ryan. From now on, the three of us will walk forward together," I answered through tears, gripping the steering wheel. It felt like a new path, different from before, was slowly beginning to come into view. Later, Matthew's affair spread rapidly after being broadcast nationwide, and his reputation plummeted. The banner displayed on the screen became a hot topic on social media and quickly went viral. Matthew, now branded with the shame of being an unfaithful husband, became isolated at work. Unable to bear the situation, he eventually resigned from his company. Jessica, too, couldn't withstand the pressure. She started distancing herself from Matthew and eventually ended their relationship. Matthew was left completely isolated, with no one to turn to. As for me, I hired a lawyer and smoothly proceeded with the divorce process. Matthew had no energy left to continue fighting, and we reached an agreement on compensation and child support that met my expectations. One quiet night, after the children had fallen asleep, I found myself alone. Though the past with him could never be erased, I knew I didn't have to be bound by it. Now, all I focused on was moving forward, building a new future with Emma and Ryan. With my own hands, I had grasped peace and hope.
I'm Mary. While I was working in my upstairs room, I suddenly heard a noise from the living room downstairs. Could it be a burglar? Ready to call for help at any moment, I gripped my cell phone and went to check the living room. There, I found my sister-in-law Jennifer. Jennifer? Oh, Mary, you're here. Jennifer turned around at the sound of my voice. You scared me, sneaking in like that. Huh? This is William's family home. So, it's practically my home too. William is the name of my brother. Setting that aside, I kind of understood what Jennifer was trying to say. But still, isn't it rude to enter someone's house without permission? I couldn't help feeling irked. But Jennifer seemed displeased with my reaction. Approaching me, she said, "Instead of that, you're home again today? Well," sigh, "having someone like you as a sister-in-law is really the worst." Excuse me? What do you mean by that? Are you still clueless? I'm saying it's embarrassing to be single and unemployed. Jennifer spoke to me in a mocking tone. I couldn't deny being single, but the unemployment part was a misunderstanding on her part. I do work, even if it's from home. So I quickly retorted, "I am working." But Jennifer didn't believe me. Instead, she mocked me further. Yeah, a home security guard, right? That's not it. Whatever. It's embarrassing and a nuisance, so just leave. I had no choice but to stay silent. I remembered that Jennifer had always been this way since our first meeting. It was years ago when Jennifer first came into our lives. William had brought her home, introducing her as the person he wanted to marry. I didn't intend to meet Jennifer then, not because I opposed the marriage, but simply because I was a recluse. This began in high school, due to my inability to gauge social distances. Making friends was difficult. This led to me becoming increasingly withdrawn from school and eventually becoming a recluse. But neither my parents nor William blamed me. "It's okay if you don't want to go to school," my dad Robert would say. "Maybe you'll find what you want to do if you take your time." William encouraged me, and my mom Ashley silently supported me. Thanks to them, I could deeply consider my future. "I can't go outside, but maybe there's something I can do from my room." With that, I decided to see what I could do with a computer. In this era, as long as you have an internet connection, anything is possible. There are ways to work other than going to an office. I'll start with what I can do alone. After that, I began to explore various possibilities. But with little knowledge or skill, there wasn't much I could do. I feel like I can't do anything. It was during such a low moment that William came to me with an idea. "Mary, you play games, right?" "Games? A little, I guess." "How about trying to be a game tester?" William brought me a job opportunity as a game tester. The task was to check whether pre-release games worked properly. It didn't require any special skills. All it needed was motivation and perseverance. "I'd like to try that," I answered immediately. And so, I began working as a tester. This job suited me perfectly. I could work diligently on my own. Reporting was as simple as sending emails. Even for someone like me who struggled with social interaction, this was manageable. I immersed myself in the tester job. As I worked, I realized something. If I knew more about programming, maybe I could even suggest fixes. That's how I started to get interested in programming. But programming requires a lot of learning. Usually, people study it at IT vocational schools. However, it's not necessary to attend such schools. There are online courses, and you can also study independently. It's all about having the will, isn't it? I used the internet to its fullest to start learning programming. I explored various sites, accumulating the necessary knowledge. Whenever I didn't understand something, I'd ask someone online. And someone I didn't even know would kindly respond. "Someone is responding to my voice." That made me happy. Gradually, I found friends who were also studying programming. We interacted online, and I started sharing personal things. Initially, our interaction was just through text, but it eventually led to voice calls, and finally, meeting in person. I was nervous, of course. Memories of my bitter high school days resurfaced. But I was no longer the high school me. Dressed up a bit, I went to the meeting place, where several men and women of my age were present. I timidly approached them, but we hit it off quickly. It was no different from our online interactions. The only difference was whether they were behind a screen or in front of me. Feeling reassured, I got lost in conversation. Then, someone suggested, "Let's start a business." I was anxious, but I thought I could work if it was with these people. I agreed immediately. That's how I started a company with friends I met online. Some had experience in sales, others had worked in regular companies. With such a diverse group, we faced no major issues in starting our business. "Mary, just do what you can," they told me, and I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I committed to giving my best in what I could do. And then, a month later, I received my first paycheck. It was totally different from the earnings I got as a tester. It was my first salary as a full-time employee. For someone who had given up in high school, this was a huge deal. Now, I'm like everyone else. Until now, I had lived in a world isolated from society. But this made me feel like a part of the community. Afterwards, I thanked my parents and William with my first salary. A token of gratitude for not giving up on me when I became a recluse. My parents were happy, and so was William. Their smiles motivated me to work even harder. The company grew rapidly, and my salary increased significantly. However, I didn't have much to spend it on. Most of my work was from home, so I didn't need things like suits for commuting. The only place I'd occasionally go was the nearby grocery store. Since my work was almost like a hobby, I had virtually no use for money. "Mom, what should I do? Should I just save it?" "Well, saving is good, but sometimes it's okay to spend boldly." After much thought, I decided to buy something significant. A house. My workplace is my room. It needs to be a place where I can relax and concentrate on work. In an apartment, you have to be mindful of neighbors. So, a detached house seemed like a better option. I'll buy a house with land. It was quite a bold idea, even for me. But at that time, I didn't think too deeply about it. So, I bought a detached house with land. Robert and William were surprised, but they're not the kind of people to oppose what I do. They accepted it graciously. Only Mom seemed worried. I shouldn't have said anything. Mom regretted her words. It's okay. I wanted to buy it. Really? If that's the case, then it's fine. Mom's regret might not be completely gone, but that changed instantly when we moved in. This kitchen is so user-friendly. Ashley was overjoyed with the state-of-the-art kitchen. That moment I felt glad I bought the house. Robert also expressed his satisfaction. It's close to the company, and having a parking space is convenient. William spoke to me earnestly. I'm proud to see Mary all grown up. It's because you introduced me to the tester job. But without your efforts, this wouldn't have happened. You're amazing, Mary. Thank you. I owe so much to William. That's why when I heard about William's fiancée coming, I decided not to meet her. I thought it'd be better to pretend I didn't exist, so William wouldn't be judged because of me. But William thought differently. Mary is my proud sister. I want you to greet the woman who's going to be your sister-in-law. Okay, I stand. With William's words, I couldn't refuse. So, I decided to meet Jennifer. Nice to meet you. I'm Jennifer. My first impression of Jennifer was that she liked brands. Apparently, she worked at a bank, and her clothes and accessories were all branded. Even her perfume was from a top brand. However, she spoke elegantly and seemed considerate. My parents quickly took a liking to her. Thus, the family meeting went smoothly. Well, I have work to do, I said, trying to leave early. I thought it would be fine for the rest to enjoy a meal together, my parents, William, and Jennifer. That's what I thought. My parents and William didn't try to stop me, but Jennifer was different. As I was about to leave, Jennifer stopped me. Hey, why don't we exchange contact information? We're going to be sisters-in-law, after all. But... Come on, let's get going, Jennifer said cheerfully. For some reason, her smile sent chills down my spine. I had a bad feeling about her. But I couldn't refuse in that atmosphere. Okay, I'll go get my cell phone. I just wanted to get it over with quickly. I could always brush her off if she contacted me. Thinking this, I went to get my cell phone. Jennifer then smirked unpleasantly. Since we're here, let's go together. Show me your room, will you? Okay. I took Jennifer to my room. Looking into my room, Jennifer said. So, this is your room. You're a recluse here, aren't you? A recluse? Yes. Just staying in your room, unemployed. Isn't that right? I instinctively braced myself against such a spiteful person. Then, laughing, Jennifer said, What? You're on guard against me. Did you hate being called unemployed that much? Of course. I'm not unemployed. Home-based work isn't a real job. You can't make a living that way. I can. Yeah, as long as someone supports you. Supporting me? Thinking you're a full-fledged adult with just a small income? Don't make me laugh. How much I earn is none of your business. It matters to me. Having an unmarried, unemployed sister-in-law is embarrassing. I am single, but I'm not unemployed. Oh right, you do home-based work. Sorry, I'm forgetful. She was completely looking down on me. Jennifer didn't seem to consider remote work as a real job. It was clear she just wanted to tease me and be alone with me. That's all I understand. I glared at Jennifer, visibly annoyed. Looking at me like that won't change the reality. If you're upset, find a real job. I am working. You're such an annoying child. If you weren't here, I could have lived in this house. Jennifer's spiteful words were unbearable. She could visit, but she couldn't force me out. Because this is my house. Yet, unaware of this, Jennifer frequently came over and whispered to me to leave when my parents and William weren't around. It was intolerable. Can't she just stop? I grumbled to myself. And today, it finally happened. Jennifer silently entered the house and outright told me to leave. That was the last straw for me. I won't leave. And don't enter the house without permission. What? An unemployed person telling me off? I'm not calling you a nuisance. I'm saying what you're doing is unreasonable. Shut up. Be quiet for once. Jennifer headed upstairs. I hurried after her and found her in my room. What are you doing? This is my room. I yelled, but Jennifer ignored me. Looking around my room, she said, "This is perfect. There's a computer and it's spacious. Better suited for me than you. This is perfect. There's a computer and it's spacious. Better suited for me than you. Get out of my room. Shut up, unemployed. You don't deserve it, so I'll take it." What? No way. Get out. Somehow, I managed to push Jennifer out of my room. Then, I forcibly dragged her out of the house. I was surprised by my own strength. Thinking it was like playing with fire, I quickly called William. Despite being at work, William answered. "What's up, Mary? Did something happen?" "William, actually." I explained how Jennifer had entered the house on her own, and also told him about how she had been demeaning me all this time. William was furious. "What? To my dear sister? I can't forgive this. Okay, I'll talk to her." "Thanks, William." After thanking him, I hung up. But I can't always rely on William. Pondering, I decided to call my colleague, James. James was a bit older than me. A college graduate, he used to work at a general company. He joined our startup wanting to do IT work. With his extensive experience, I made it a point to consult James when in trouble. "James, it's not about work. I have a personal issue." "What's wrong?" "Well," I discussed Jennifer's actions with James. Angry as if it were his own issue, James said, "That's wrong of Jennifer. You're not at fault, Mary." "Right, yeah." "So, have you figured out any countermeasures?" "That's just it. I haven't at all." "Then, I'll tell you a good strategy. It's this." James shared a certain plan with me. Indeed, an interesting strategy. If successful, it would surely teach Jennifer a lesson. But there was one problem. "Won't this trouble you, James?" "Don't worry about me. Just go ahead and try it." "Thank you." I decided to execute James's plan. Immediately, I contacted a certain place. Months passed while I implemented the countermeasures. Jennifer's attacks on me ceased. Probably due to William's scolding. I hope it stays this way. I was slightly relieved. However, the world isn't always so kind. A few days later, Jennifer called me. "Can I come over tomorrow? It's okay if I call before coming, right?" Her tone was deliberately unpleasant. Still, if Jennifer came, there was a high chance of executing James's plan. Reluctantly, I pretended to agree. The next day, Jennifer arrived at the house and immediately asked, "Are your parents here?" "They're not. They're on a trip." "Oh, that's perfect." While saying so, Jennifer brought a large bag into the house. "What is that?" "My clothes and various things." "Are you planning to stay here?" "Not just staying. I'm moving in. So, you should leave. You're an eyesore." It finally happened. With that in mind, I quietly nodded. "Understood." "You're complaining." "Wait, you understand?" "Yes." "I'll leave." You suddenly became obedient. "I've thought about it. You are William's wife. I owe a lot to William." I said this with a solemn demeanor. Jennifer then started to smile unpleasantly. "Finally, you understand. Now, get out." Useless unemployed. Okay. I immediately went upstairs. Actually, as per James's instructions, my belongings were already packed, and I had a place to move to. In other words, everything was going according to James's plan. I called the moving company and went to the living room, where Jennifer was relaxing on the sofa. You're fast. Well, a reclusive unemployed wouldn't have much to move, I guess. Although I wanted to retort, I didn't. I'm leaving now. The movers will come later for my things. Yeah. And please don't regret this. Regret? As if. I'll feel refreshed without a recluse around. Leaving Jennifer's mocking laughter behind, I left the house. Then I contacted my parents. Dad, are you enjoying the trip? Yeah, I'm really happy with this present. I'm glad. Actually, I told them about Jennifer's visit to the house. I explained the reason for the sudden trip and James's strategy, and I asked them to act accordingly. My parents agreed readily, largely due to the description of Jennifer's unreasonable behavior. This will work out well. She'll regret it. Muttering to myself, I headed to my new home. A few days after moving, the end of the month was approaching, and I was excited. Any time now. Jennifer should contact me. I waited for the call. Then it came. The phone rang, and as soon as I answered, Jennifer yelled, "What's the meaning of this? What's wrong, Jennifer? Why do I have to leave?" You don't have to leave. Just pay the rent. Rent? This house is our family home, isn't it? It was, but I've sold it. You sold it. Why do you get to decide that? Because it was my house. Your house? Yes, that house was. I explained about starting an IT company with my colleagues and working there. William must have told her too. But since Jennifer looked down on me, I assumed she hadn't listened. So, I explained it all from the beginning. Shocked, Jennifer asked, "So, you really sold this house?" "Yes. Are you familiar with leaseback?" "What's that?" Leaseback is a system where you sell your home to a company and then rent it to continue living there. It has benefits like paying off loans with the sale proceeds. I used that leaseback. I sold the house and land I bought, then stopped paying rent after the contract ended when Jennifer arrived. That meant Jennifer couldn't continue living there unless she signed a new contract herself. But Jennifer, who relied on William, wouldn't be able to pay the rent herself. And I doubted she would want to live there with William after driving me out. In short, Jennifer would have nowhere to live. Remember this after playing your games. I couldn't help but laugh at her empty threat. It was entirely her fault. If she hadn't looked down on me, she could have had a happy married life. Such a pointless person. She'll probably end up divorced from William, and I won't have to see her again. That's what I thought. But it was that evening, when James called me. "Mary, something terrible happened. Can you contact your brother right away?" "He should be finishing work soon, so I can." "Then tell him and also." James spoke rapidly about various things. Essentially, he wanted me and William to come to his house. Curious, I contacted William and then headed to James's place first. When I arrived, there was a commotion outside James's apartment. Many police officers were there, and neighbors had gathered to see what was happening. James, what happened?" I approached James, who was in the middle of the commotion. "Actually, some weird woman tried to take my laptop." Here's what James told me. While he was taking a shower during a break at work, he heard a strange noise and peeked into his room. There, a woman was rummaging through his belongings, apparently trying to take his laptop. Of course, James immediately confronted her. As soon as he shouted, the woman got startled and ran away. But she tried to escape through a window, fell, and lost consciousness. That woman was Jennifer, and she was arrested by the police for breaking and entering. However, Jennifer insisted, "This is my sister's room," and wouldn't back down, causing the commotion. "This isn't your room, right?" the police asked. Of course, it wasn't my room. But I wondered why Jennifer thought it was my room. When I asked her, Jennifer said to me, "It's your room. I sent your belongings here." "My belongings?" "Yes. I heard it from the movers." When Jennifer was at the house, I had called the movers and left her there. But, as per James's instructions, my belongings were first sent to his room, then forwarded to my new home. Unaware of this, Jennifer assumed the delivery address was where I moved to. But that doesn't justify breaking and entering, does it? "It's your fault. You." Jennifer's excuse was this. When I left the house, I had all furniture and appliances taken by the movers. However, Jennifer apparently thought something would be left behind. Her plan was to sell the leftovers and use the money for living expenses. But that plan failed. She thought she could still manage if the house was there. But then she learned she couldn't live there anymore. In retaliation, she planned to sell my laptop for cash. She intended to enter my house, but ended up in James's room instead. That was the real story. "It's your fault. Remember this." As the police took her away, Jennifer continued to shout such things. In the end, Jennifer and William got divorced. William demanded compensation from Jennifer. However, there was no way Jennifer could pay it. Because she had debts. She wanted to take over our house to sell its contents for money to pay off her debts. Anyway, Jennifer is now in prison, unable to do anything. And her parents ended up paying the compensation on her behalf. Because of Jennifer's incident, I've come to rely on James more than ever. I might not have been able to do anything without him. That's when I realized something. I'm in love with James. Now that I've realized this, I've started to make strong advances towards James.